Emperor of the Desert. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326 Encounter with Astaroth. After giving the Ascended people a series of guidance, Qin Ren stopped caring about them. It is most fun to let myths develop on their own. Watching it develop will give you a subtle sense of accomplishment. By the way, from the name, it can be seen that the setting he gave to the Ascended people is based on the Ascended in Shurima, but the responsibility Qin Ren gave them is to weave and spread myths. To put it bluntly, they are a group of priests and historians. However, Qin Ren did not weave myths for the other three god cities besides the Ascended people. The Genesis in the Ascended City is the official history of myths, but it is only the official history of myths woven by him. The Ascended people will regard this Genesis as the absolute official history, and in this short period of time, when observing him build three god cities, Qin Ren has discovered that this group of Ascended people have such ideas as, there are gods in Sun Wheel City, End City, and Frozen Earth City, so we have Ascended City. Ascended City is the hometown of all bodies. We will also become gods. Qin Ren did not feel angry or any other unhappy emotions. On the contrary, he felt quite interesting. What changes will happen here in the future? Qin Ren knew very well that various myths in history have been revised repeatedly. Even the Bible, which was praised to the sky, has been revised many times in history. Now there is even a difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Qin Ren wanted to see how the myth he wove would be subverted in the future. In the early days of mythology, Qin Ren would intervene and participate in the weaving of mythology. Later, Qin Ren would gradually separate himself from the work of weaving myths and observe the changes in this world as an observer. So what will happen next? After imagining what might happen in the future, Qin Ren's consciousness turned to the incarnation of will in the world of the god killer. After making the frozen soil, he had no soul of a god left. Next, if he wanted to make new subordinates, he would need new materials. To get new materials, he had to kill the god of disobedience or kill the god killer and take the power of the spell from the body of the god killer. Now the 2 pillars corresponding to the 9 pillars have been obtained, and there are 7 pillars left. Next, he needs to find the gods of disobedience related to the earth, sky, wind, life or magic, sandstorm, rain, and the guardian of the dead, and use them as materials to make new pillars. However, the premise of all this is that he needs to have enough strength. There is no doubt about his original strength, but the amount of his power that wants to penetrate outside the yellow sand world is limited. At present, the power he can use in the outside world through the incarnation of his will is only sea level. Against the city level, it is not enough to attack the god's lair. To deal with some stronger gods of disobedience, you also need to incarnate into a pterosaur. He needs to continue to collect gold coins and vouchers, then just continue to get it for free. On the other hand, because the timeline is blocked by some kind of power, Astaroth, who can only go back and forth on a branch timeline of the main trunk of time, looks more and more ugly. He has traveled through dozens of timelines and wants to use the new branches extended from the timeline as a springboard to escape from the cage from the derived new timeline. That inexplicable power should also have a limit. The more timelines are extended, the thinner it should become. However, the more timelines he traveled through, the more unbelievable it became. That terrifying power showed no signs of weakening no matter how many timelines it extended. How is this possible? While Astaroth was anxiously traveling through different timelines, trying to break the cage, he suddenly noticed a situation. That is, some timelines were a bit weird. He traveled through timelines, but found that some European countries were destroyed by some kind of power. Almost all the people in these countries died, and only a few people shouted in shock and fear that the Day of Judgment had arrived. Astaroth naturally knew about the Christian legend of the Day of Judgment, but it was obvious that no Christian legendary figures or angels descended to become the gods of disobedience, and no 4 horsemen of the apocalypse were seen. However, in these timelines, he found that the situation in which all the demons who did not descend died in other timelines did not happen. Only Momo, Hual and Antalin disappeared. This situation made him a little stunned. However, it was also through this situation that he roughly determined that this timeline was different from the previous timelines where all the disobedient gods and god-killers disappeared. In the timeline where all the disobedient gods and god-killers disappeared, no area was destroyed on a large scale. On this line, most of the disobedient gods and god-killers still existed, and only one area was annihilated. So, the divergence point was whether this area was annihilated. Ashtrath, who was familiar with the law of timeline branching, made a judgment. Then he bewitched several survivors and roughly determined the time when the so-called judgment would take place. Now he had no other way. It was impossible to escape from these timelines. Then, he could only explore the truth and find a way to break through. Even though he knew that exploring the truth was very dangerous, there was no other way. His dark eyes flickered, and the power of the demon god surged in his body. A time rift leading to the long river of time opened in front of him. He grabbed his mount, the Hell Dragon, with his right hand and drilled into the long river of time. Ram of Thebes. Arcane Pulse. The power obtained from Mammon Zeus was used together with Zaraz's skills. The bright and scorching thunder flames expanded and destroyed an area again. Wherever the thunder swept, no grass grew. Looking at this situation, Qin Ren couldn't help but smile. In fact, the Millennium Scale was not wrong in distinguishing his good and evil. No matter how you look at it, he doesn't look like a good person. The hundreds of thousands of soul light balls in the yellow sand world were killed by him in this way, and then he went back to the past through the time rupture. Even if he went back to the past, he would not be considered a murderer. It was just psychological comfort. There is no doubt that if he became a demon, he would definitely be a demon of the upper level, the most evil demon. Looking at the land that had become a barren and broken land under his attack, Qin Ren's mana surged and activated the skill, Time and Space Rupture. The surging mana was transformed into a wonderful shield, covering the incarnation of will and bringing the incarnation of will into the long river of time. However, this time the Time and Space Rupture made him see another person, a black demon holding a hell dragon in his right hand. Ashtrath. Chapter 327 Upgrading Magic Power. When Qin Ren entered the long river of time through the time-space rupture, he did not expect to meet Ashtrath. The other party was also going back in time and returning to the past, but it was obvious that the other party who had the power to travel through time could go back in time and return to the past or go to the future more easily than him. Ashtrath, who was going back in time to find the key time node and the divergence point, was also stunned when he saw Qin Ren. He was the only one among the 72 demon gods who could travel through time, but he also knew that there were also people who could travel through time in other myths and legends. But the number was very small, as long as the existence in front of him who was going back in time was not any of the ones he knew. If it was normal, he would definitely chase after him to see the situation. However, because the timeline was blocked, Ashtrath's vigilance had risen to the extreme. He needed to be cautious. His eyes stayed on the time node when Qin Ren disappeared, and then his eyes wandered. In the next moment, he saw a new timeline extending from the long river of time. After a slight hesitation, Ashtrath did not look at the time when Qin Ren disappeared, nor did he choose a new timeline. His sight shifted to another timeline, and his figure flashed, breaking away from the long river of time and entering that timeline. The time-space rupture state ended, and Qin Ren, who had returned to 4 seconds ago, was ready to take action at any time. For some reason, Ashtrath only looked at him in the long river of time, and did not take any approaching action. Why was Ashtrath so wary of him? Could it be that Ashtrath saw him in other timelines? Qin Ren waited for a while, but still did not sense Ashtrath's arrival. What a pity. He also wanted to kill Ashtrath directly and get his power to travel through time. Qin Ren had almost understood Ashtrath's weaknesses and strengths through Memo, Hual and Antalin. As long as he got the chance, Qin Ren could quickly kill the opponent. Moreover, he had a trump card. Incarnate as a pterosaur? No, this is not a trump card. His trump card is to drag the enemy into the yellow sand world and deal with it with his body. His will incarnation only has the strength of a city, but his body is not. However, it is difficult to drag people into the yellow sand space. because it takes a certain amount of time to open the channel connecting the Yellow Sand world and the world of the God's lair. Although it is not long, just 1 or 2 seconds, for a strong man of this level, 1 or 2 seconds is enough to do a lot of things. If the opponent can break free during this period, then his killer move, this big move, will fail, especially for a Stroth, who can directly enter the long river of time to avoid attacks. He needs to trap a Stroth in the first place and prevent the opponent from using power in order to succeed, just like what he did when dealing with the demon Malmo before. But the iron must be hard, and the strength of his will incarnation is only sea level, which is not enough. He needs to continue to improve. Ignoring this accidental Stroth, Qin Ren spent a few minutes to let the will incarnation absorb enough mana from the body, and then controlled the will incarnation again and continued to kill. 3 days later. Bounty, 1,514,734 yellow sand gold coins, G-level certificates, 3,267, F-level certificates, 284, E-level certificates, 35, D-level certificates, 1. After annihilating almost a quarter of the UK, the Qin people also collected enough certificates. The main reason is that there are too few high-level targets. The total population of the UK is only about 60 million, mainly concentrated in major cities. High-level targets, that is, those relatively strong magician organizations, generally choose places with fewer people as their bases. It's not that there are no people, but most of them are not densely populated areas such as cities. From the memories of the magicians they killed, the Qin people learned the locations of these magician organizations, and then targeted these places for attack. Therefore, the proportion of ordinary people affected is relatively low. About hundreds of thousands of people. Every time after launching the power to cause a large-scale disaster, they immediately use the time-space rupture to go back 4 seconds ago. How many people died? For the Qin people, this is just a number, and there is no sense of reality. And the sense is gradually approaching the original body, and gradually approaching indifference made the waves in his heart about killing so many people less and less. This is not evil, but great love, universal love. The highest realm of the Virgin Mary is to love everything and treat everyone equally, regardless of whether they are pitiful or not, regardless of their background. Qin Ren defended himself in his heart. What? Use a 1,000-year scale to measure it? The 1,000-year scale can't measure it accurately. This is love, universal love. After asking and answering himself like a schizophrenia, Qin Ren also had to do the right thing. Do you want to spend 1 million yellow sand gold coins and 10 D-level certificates? Yes. Magic power, 1.5665C. In an instant, Qin Ren felt that the strength of the mana that the incarnation of will could mobilize increased instantly. His previous conclusion was correct. What he had been improving was the amount of power that the incarnation of will could take from the original body. In the final analysis, it is still taking things from oneself. However, this time, he can have a better performance. Before, he only had half of the sea-level magic power, which put him at a disadvantage when dealing with Horus. After transforming into a pterosaur, he could use the light flame to reach a destructive power close to 3C, which allowed him to barely deal with Horus. But now, if he lets his will transform into a pterosaur and uses the light flame, he can reach a magic power close to 8C. C is for cities, and 8C is close to B level, which is the strength against countries. Now, he has the capital to deal with the God's lair, but he is still at a disadvantage when facing the God's lair. Although his damage is high, his body is fragile. His magic resistance and armor are 2D and 5D respectively. In short, he is a fragile mage. Armor is easy to say. The sand armor can increase his extra armor through magic power 1-to-1. Magic resistance is not good. The last time he dealt with Hual, the opponent used the power of prophecy to directly attack him. No, to be more precise, that should be called true damage. Although he knew that his body was only the incarnation of his will, and his real body was in the yellow sand world, Qin Ren did not think that the death of his will incarnation was irrelevant. On the contrary, the will incarnation was very important, because it was his only power that could extend to the outside world. Purgatory, 32, and Frozen Earth all had their power derived from their bodies, But if they wanted to act in the outside world, they still needed to use their will incarnations. Chapter 328. The next target. In layman's terms, the main body is the main server, and the incarnation of will is equivalent to his client. He must rely on the client to act in the outside world. If the body organs are used as a metaphor, the incarnation of will is his hands and eyes in the outside world. Although in his feeling, the yellow sand world is an eggshell that protects the immature main body, the eggshell can protect the chicks, but for the chicks, the eggshell is also a cage. Before having enough power, the chicks cannot and will not break the eggshell. If the incarnation of will dies, his main body is currently unable to interfere with the outside world, and can't even see what is happening in the outside world. Moreover, judging from the current situation that the main body completely relies on the victory and killing rituals of the incarnation of will to grow, once the incarnation of will dies, the main body will enter a state of no nutritional supplements. Will it starve to death? Qin Ren didn't know, but he certainly wouldn't gamble. All he needed to know was that at this stage, the incarnation of will was extremely important to his main body. Qin Ren also tried to create a new incarnation of will, but the result failed. New incarnations of will can be created, but they can't get out. The new incarnation of will was still isolated. The meaning and role of the yellow sand world to his original body were quite complicated. It was both a protection and a restriction, a cage and a cultivation tank. However, in the dark, he could feel that once he erected the 9 pillars, it would be a sign of his maturity. At that time, his original body would most likely break through the eggshell and interfere with the outside world directly, rather than through the incarnation of will. After the establishment of the nether pillar, the next target of the Qin people was the Black Prince Drake. Since he was already in Britain, he would kill the wind pillar by the way, because among the 72 pillars of demons, there were 2 demons related to wind and sky. This time, the target he was looking for was the 41st pillar demon Fugalo. He had the power to control the wind and the sea, and often overturned warships and drowned sailors. In the memories of Hualand and Talon, Fugalo and the 70th demon Izir were good friends, a rare relationship among the 72 pillars of demons. His original body was a handsome man riding a winged Pegasus, mastering the principles of the operation of things. He can circle the world in the blink of an eye. Judging from the description of the demon god in the myth, the power of the demon god Izir is quite powerful. The speed of light is 30 km per second, and it can circle the earth 7.5 times in 1 second. The speed of lightning is several kilometers per second, at most hundreds of kilometers. What? Unscientific. Lightning is the result of the movement of electric charges, and the light released is a byproduct. When you turn on a flashlight to emit light, can you say that the speed of turning on the flashlight is the speed of light? As for the speed of wind, the common wind speed on Earth is within 100 meters per second. The fastest wind currently observed is the solar wind. The wind speed of the solar wind is often maintained at about 350 to 450 kilometers per second near the Earth, and can reach more than 800 kilometers per second at the most violent time. The lower limit of the wind speed is low, but the upper limit is high, while the lower limit of thunder is high, but it is lower than the upper limit of wind. The current movement speed that the Qin people can achieve is 2.222 d, which is 7,777 meters per second. Of course, it is just a data conversion, and there are actually quite a few errors. After he used the incarnation of his will and materialized through the Millennium Key, his speed was this, but using the effect of the sand fruit to disperse into sand and move, his speed would be much faster. If he removed the materialization and moved in the form of energy, his speed would be several times higher. If he used the power he had taken from Ammon Zeus and transformed into the ram of Thebes, he could also reach a speed close to that of lightning. There is a big difference. However, the power of the demon god Izir, just from the description, has a speed close to the speed of light. The time of a blink of an eye is 0.20.4 seconds. And it takes 0.20.4 seconds to go around the world in a blink of an eye. If we look at it at the fastest speed of a blink of an eye, it would go around the Earth 5 times in 1 second. Of course, the person who created this myth and legend at that time did not know the speed of light, but the demon god Izir reached such a speed at that time. Moreover, from the description of the myth, mastering the principle of the operation of things seems to be a description of mastering the rules. In other words, if the demon god Izir appears, he should have the power to grant or curb the target's ability to move. If he can get this power, it will be of great significance to the Qin people. As mentioned before, his trump card is to temporarily open the channel connection with the Yellow Sand world, lock the enemy into the Yellow Sand world, and use the powerful body to kill the target. If he can get the power of Izir, then his chances of using the trump card will be greatly increased. Moreover, among the god slayers he has to deal with, the Black Prince Drake has the power obtained from the Thunder Angel, which allows him to reach the speed of thunder. After obtaining the power of the demon god Izir, it will be much easier for the Qin people to deal with the Black Prince Drake. If it really doesn't work, if the power of the demon god Pharaoh can be obtained, it should be able to be used as the raw material of the Pillar of Wind, or the material of the Pillar of Sandstorm. Needless to say, the wind god Shu, said is the god of desert and storm. Although he only controls the storm in the desert, it is also related to the wind. The Pillar of Sandstorm he represents should also be used. According to the memory of Malmo and Hula, the demon god Pharaoh used to be near the Mediterranean, but because many god slayers appeared in Europe, he has moved to the Atlantic. The Atlantic Ocean is very large. If it were an ordinary person, even a god slayer, it would be almost impossible to find Pharaoh and Izir. However, with the memories of Dantalin, Hual and Memo, it is impossible not to find them. In fact, he does not need to look for them. Cornwall, England, the base of the Royal Factory, an organization led by the Black Prince Drake. After discussing with Alice about the purpose of the action of the god ancestor Guinevere, he returned here. While sending his men to observe Guinevere's actions, he continued to check the information here. He was called the Speedy Nobleman. After becoming a god slayer, he began to study various myths and legends, and was familiar with legends and myths from all over the world. Although he was not a magician who received gifted education, he was also proficient in various techniques. He became a god slayer at the age of 16. Every day after that, his attainments as a magician gradually increased, especially the struggle with the Council of Sages, the largest magician organization. While he was studying what the ancestor of the gods, Guinevere, was doing, his subordinate, a magician who was good at using frost magic and was called Iceman, came to him. Drake, we found the trace of the god of disobedience. Chapter 329 Three Demons. And, it is also possible that the god of disobedience was summoned artificially, the Iceman said to Drake seriously. Drake looked at his good friend and confidant with some surprise. Summoning the god of disobedience is not a rare thing. Since the first god of disobedience appeared, since the first god killer succeeded in killing God, magicians who tried to summon the god of disobedience and tried to become god killers have repeatedly tried to summon the god of disobedience. He is British, but his hometown is France. He became a god killer because he encountered an ancient magic circle in which an ancient magician tried to summon the god of disobedience and killed him directly. But the second circuit of that magic circle, the circuit that directly killed the god of disobedience, failed. Or maybe both circuits worked, but the subsequent circuits could not be completed and the god of disobedience could not be killed, so only the circuit that summoned the god of disobedience worked. It was at that time that he met the Thunder Angel Remy Alon, killed him, and won the first power of Black Thunder. At that time, he did not know any magic, not even low-level magic. Now, although he is not as good as the top magicians, such as the Witch of Sardinia and Alice, however, as an opportunity for him to become a god slayer, Drake has naturally studied it in detail. To summon the god of disobedience, the corresponding medium is one thing, and a huge amount of energy is also required. Even the most powerful magician's own mantra is not enough to summon a god of disobedience, and a more powerful mantra must be used. The mantra generated by the arrangement of specific constellations and the mantra flowing in the earth veins. There is enough energy for the ritual of summoning the god of disobedience, and only then can the god of disobedience be successfully summoned. The power he established, the Royal Factory, gathered all kinds of talents. Although his power was established to pursue the Holy Grail, Most of the people who would follow him, Drake, were people who had grudges with the magician organization headed by the Council of Sages. However, his royal factory has very simple mystic researchers, and has also developed street hooligans, fraud and thieves, and ordinary citizens who only know magic or the existence of gods. Of course, it also recruited powerful magicians. At the base in Cornwall, this base disguised as an unvisited art gallery displays precious magic props and treasures collected by the British Museum and the British Library, as well as mountains of magic books. Many of these magicians join the royal factory for these. Iceman is one of them. He and the other party are not only subjects and kings, but also acquaintances and friends. Drake was a little puzzled by what Iceman said. He did not receive any reports of the magic power of the earth veins being extracted in large quantities. The only recent situation of actively summoning the god of disobedience was the last time that Marquis Vauban summoned it. Could it be Marquis Vauban? Marquis Vauban has the power to control the dead and the power of the demon book that can plunder magic. Perhaps among the magicians controlled by Marquis Vauban, there is a unique way to summon the god of disobedience that does not require a lot of magic power. No, it's not Marquis Vauban. It's on the sea. Iceman shook his head and denied his guess. Could it be that the Flying Dutchman, the myth of your Netherlands, has appeared? No, it's in the Atlantic Ocean. Atlantic Ocean? Drake was a little strange, and then he seemed to think of something, frowning. Poseidon? The most famous myth related to the Atlantic Ocean is naturally Poseidon, the god of the sea in Greek mythology. Black Prince Drake, who knows most of the myths from all over the world, also associates Poseidon with the first person. It hasn't been identified yet. Iceman Dennis shook his head. It happened yesterday. The report from the British Meteorological Office said that an unexplained thunderstorm was found in the Atlantic Ocean. Unexplained thunderstorm god? In the myths related to the Atlantic Ocean, is there a myth of the god of thunder who controls thunder and lightning? Drake thought about it, but he couldn't think of any myth of the god of thunder related to the ocean. Maybe it's some aboriginal myth. Drake set his sights on those unknown island aboriginal myths. Those aboriginals may not even have written language, and the way to record myths may just be some kind of pictures that are unrecognizable under the erosion of sea breeze. I don't know. Anyway, the god of disobedience has come. Are you going, Drake? Asked the Iceman Dennis with a little doubt. The god of disobedience is prey for the god killer. Dangerous and delicious prey. But last time, Drake almost died when he killed the son of the god of the earth Labyrinth, the legendary bull-headed monster Minotaur. The Iceman heard him say that he was scared several times. In addition, he also knew that Drake's Black Thunder power had side effects. Drake entered a high-speed state through the power of Black Thunder, which could only last for a few minutes, and there would be side effects of several times the time. If the time limit is exceeded, it may even be unable to recover to the original speed. As for the Iceman's sight, Drake just shrugged. Of course I have to go. I can go by plane or ferry. Maybe you should buy a helicopter. That's a good idea. Drake nodded in agreement. On the other side, the Azores Islands in the eastern middle of the North Atlantic. This is a Portuguese colonial island, rich in all kinds of fruits, and also a military base of the U.S. military. In the U.S. military base, a white man wearing a U.S. Navy uniform said with a smile, "Not bad, Falfa. You destroyed 2 battleships as soon as you appeared." In front of him were 2 white men. One of them was extremely handsome, and just smiled when he heard it. The other one's face darkened and said in a hoarse voice, "Fglo, that was you who did it, not me." "Of course it was you." The man called Falfa responded with a smile. "The 2 battleships were hit by lightning, but I don't have the power to control lightning, and no one will believe you because you never tell the truth." Hearing this, Falfa's face darkened, but he didn't say anything else, but asked, "Izir, why did Falfa summon me out?" The reason why he didn't appear was because he was summoned by Falfa, who was also a demon god. "I don't know either." The handsome man, the demon Izir, responded, "I never ask what he wants to do. He and Fgaro are the few demons with a good relationship, but he won't ask too much." After Fgaro asked, Izir also turned his gaze to Fgaro. Chapter 330, Izir's overthinking. The 3 were talking, but at this time, The demon Zir suddenly found that the breath of another demon was approaching. After Zir told Furgalo and Fufa about this situation, the other two demons also expressed their doubts. Dantalin, when did he come? What is he doing here? Furgalo spoke first. I don't know. Zir shook his head to indicate that he didn't know. I felt his breath before, and it seemed to appear near Jerusalem. It was a bit strange to think about it. At that time, he passed by the Middle East and headed east, and felt the arrival of the other party. If there is a demon among the demons who has the worst relationship with other demons, it is of course Dantalin. Dantalin likes to use tricks and conspiracies to play tricks on others, and the result of this playing is basically death. In addition, Dantalin has repeatedly set the target of his play on other demons. Although he did not succeed, he almost killed them a few times. Nabaris, Benabai, and Hual are all victims. However, as Hual has the power of prophecy, Dantalin's murder was discovered and exposed. This is also the reason why Dandlian hates Valor and repeatedly troubles Valor, whether it is Fugalo, Fa or Zir. They have no good feelings towards Dandlian. Maybe he is here to find Valor. Zir made a guess. No, Valor should be hiding near Jerusalem. Fugalo shook his head. If he appears near Jerusalem, he should go directly to Valor. Is his target us? Fa finally couldn't help it, and a stag with flames all over his body appeared behind him. Fa was also plotted by Dandlian before, but when he tried to take revenge, he was plotted by Dandlian again and was attacked by an angel and almost killed. Therefore, he was extremely nervous about the possibility that Dandlian's target was him. However, at this moment, Fa, who had the power to control wind, rain, thunder and lightning, felt another breath. It was not a demon god. If it was a demon god, just like the perception of Dandlian now, they could feel the approach of other demon gods from a long distance, and the distance of this breath was much closer than Dandlian. Only Fa felt it. It's the power of thunder, Fufa told the other two companions. At this point, Fugalo and Zir did not doubt whether Fufa was stupid enough to continue lying, and asked directly, who is it? I don't know. Fufa, who had just been summoned and was not familiar with the current distribution of forces in this world, could only shake his head. Demon. No, not a demon, but an angel. Fallen angel? This ambiguous answer made Fugalo curse inwardly, and then turned his eyes to Zir. Zir, you are fast, go and take a look, and by the way, see why Dantalin came here. No problem. Zir did not doubt his friend's request and agreed directly. Where is it? Zir turned his eyes to Fufa. Over there. Fufa pointed to the northeast. The next moment, Zir returned to the image of a handsome man riding a winged Pegasus and disappeared instantly. In a short moment, Zir approached the target location along the direction pointed by Fufa. When he was within a few dozen kilometers, he also felt the target that Fufa mentioned, a helicopter flying towards the Azores. Zir's vision was different from that of others. He could directly see the essence of things. In his eyes, in the center of the roaring helicopter, there were constantly steaming flames and storms that were constantly generated downwards, as well as roaring thunder and lightning. There was also the power of water, the evil power similar to the devil, uneasiness, jealousy, and revenge. The huge power similar to the devil was like the earth, wanting to swallow everything, but there was also a part of it that had nothing to do with the devil. This feeling was very familiar. He had felt it in Europe when he traveled around the world before, relying on the advantage of speed to confirm who the strong people in various places were. Black Prince Drake. Zir made a judgment almost instantly. After confirming the other party's identity, Zir had no intention of staying and rushed directly to the direction of Dandlian. And Drake, who was riding a helicopter towards the Azores, also felt it when Zir approached. However, with the speed of Zir, even if Drake possessed the thunder speed power of the messenger angel Remiel, he could only feel it, and could not even sense any specific breath. Just like ordinary people feel the wind blowing, he could only feel something passing by. This feeling made him surprised and suspicious. Unlike other Godslayers, he did not like to fight head-on. His characteristic was that he was good at wits and was used to counterattacking the enemy through design. This time he went to the Azores with a plan. But what was the thing that just passed by? The god of disobedience? Anyway, it couldn't be other Godslayers. Among the Godslayers, He was the fastest. Others didn't have his speed at all. Drake was most distressed by his thunder speed power, but he was also proud of it. He dared to go directly to the Azores. One of the most important reasons was that he relied on the speed of the thunder speed power, which no one could match. If he encountered danger, he could use the thunder speed power and the magic ball of greed to escape. But now, he hesitated. What was that thing that just passed by? He couldn't even perceive that speed clearly. Qin Ren, who activated the power of Horus's Eye of Fusion and transformed into the Duke of Mirrored Antlion, also felt the situation. However, what he felt was that the demon Izir, who was originally on the Azores, disappeared. Just after this feeling ended, he found a handsome man in front of him. The other party looked at him with a vigilant look and said, "Dantlion, what are you doing here?" The other party appeared without the incarnation of will noticing it, and directly called him Dantlion, as well as the familiar, evil demonic aura, so that Qin Ren had confirmed the other party's identity, the demon Izir who mastered the operation of things. The other party's appearance here made Qin Ren a little surprised, but he couldn't help laughing. He was worried that he might not be able to find Izir. Even if he found him, Izir's speed would be difficult to catch. But now, Izir appeared directly in front of him. The demon Izir looked at Dantlion, who was obviously stunned, and was also confused. But Izir was not worried, because Dantalion's direct combat capability was not strong. The demons were wary of Dantalion because of his endless tricks and strategies. When the four angels chased him, they didn't even hurt him. The several counterattacks by Hual and several other demons who possessed the power of prophecy also did not cause any damage to Dantalion. "I'm afraid no one in the world can kill Dantalion." But Izir didn't want to be hostile to Dantalion and didn't want to be the target of his murder. Then, he seemed to remember something, and his eyes were a little doubtful. "Did you lead Drake here? Do you want to kill Drake?" Thinking of Dantalion's great achievements, Izir instantly made up a series of situations in his mind. The Qin people were confused. "Drake? What the hell?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331 My Turn, Fusion. Qin Ren didn't care what Izir was thinking about. He only knew that now was an opportunity. "Izir, you can't use your power." Qin Ren suddenly attacked. "Why can't you use it?" Izir, who completely regarded the Qin Ren in front of him as Dantalion, was alert. But he never thought that Dantalion, who had no grudge against him, would suddenly attack him. He only regarded Qin Ren's words as inquiries. However, when a huge force wrapped around his body like a chain, Izir reacted. "And, what is this? Prophecy power? How is it possible?" Dantalion does not have the power of prophecy. Izir sensed the power characteristics that bound his body, and instantly realized the source of this prophecy power. "Is this the power of Hual? You took away Hual's power?" Taking power from the god of never is certainly not a unique skill of humans. As long as you have the means to take away the power, you can do it. The main reason why the God Slayer can become a God Slayer is because of Pandora's ritual. Pandora can use the ritual to reincarnate people into God Slayers. Pandora is the first woman made of clay by the god of fire in Greek mythology. The gods gave her various items and abilities. In the world of God Slayers, Pandora usually stays at the border between life and death. That is, close to the underworld. If someone dies, they may see her. All those who fight and defeat the gods are basically dying. If Pandora encounters a mortal who fights and wins against the disobedient gods, that is, after their death, she will use the reincarnation ritual to transfer the power of the defeated god and the flesh that can compete with the gods as a reward to the person who defeated the gods, turning them into the devil god slayer, just like painting on an object. The ritual is engraved on the corpse. The name of this ritual is the Ring of Usurpation. Therefore, after the God Slayer is reincarnated from a human into a God Slayer, he can kill the god of disobedience and usurp the power of the god of disobedience. And such a power is naturally not unique to Pandora. Among the gods, there are many people who have the power to usurp the power of the god of disobedience, such as Prometheus, the brother of Pandora's husband Epimetheus, who can steal the fire from the sky and also has such ability. The Prometheus secret book is a ring of usurpation. After sensing that he was bound by the prophetic power of the god of hell, Izir's first thought was that Dantalion had obtained the power of the god of hell in some way. Even the god of hell had been killed by Dantalion, who helped Dantalion get the power of the god of hell. Could it be Lamer? The demon god Lamer of the 40th pillar, the thief crow, has the power to steal, not only treasures, but also Lamer stole the power from a god of disobedience when they first appeared thousands of years ago. But there is no time to think so much now. Dantalion, no matter whose help you get the power of the Huol, and Umali will return it to its original owner, and Umali, the 72nd pillar of the demon god, possesses the return power that can return the stolen items to their original owners. And the power of prophecy is indeed omnipotent, but the exercise of the power of prophecy is closely related to one's own strength. And Dantalion is notoriously weak among the 72 pillars of the demon god. Izir roared, and his originally handsome appearance began to become ferocious and ferocious. The huge winged Pegasus under his crotch also instantly began to twist from a beautiful posture and turned into a ferocious beast. He tried his best to stimulate his own demon god spell power, trying to completely demonize and directly destroy the prophecy power that bound his body. But soon, he felt that his spell power was completely suppressed. This means that Dantalion's power is stronger than his. Impossible. Dantalion's spell power is almost the weakest among the demon gods, although his own power is not as strong as that of the supreme four pillars. Dantalion, with an angry roar, Izir, who had completely transformed into a demon god, felt the restraint that had not changed at all, and his face became even uglier. The next moment, Izir heard a series of strange spells. Almighty Sun and Sky Guardian, unseal the ball of light and surround the desert with light. Transform from the posture of the ball of light, show anger to the enemy with fire, and bring victory. Call the name of God. Suddenly, Izir felt a fiery, sacred majesty descend, which made him feel a burning sensation. Buzz buzz buzz, in the originally gloomy sky, a large amount of light and flames suddenly appeared, dancing wildly, like red giant pythons rolling. Is this the sun god? Izir once again showed a look of horror. You are not Dantalion? Who are you? This power is completely different from Dantalion's power. After hearing this, Qin Ren laughed. Isn't this Dantalion's power? Then fuse it. Fusion Eye, Duke of Mirror, the winged dragon of the sun god. Qin Ren once again obtained the power of the Eye of Fusion from Horus, integrating the power of the Duke of Mirror and the winged dragon skills of the sun god into his body at the same time. What on earth is this? Izir's sight froze, and he murmured as he looked at the sky. There, accompanied by the surging of evil and sacred flames, a dark purple giant creature stood up. The whole body was dark purple, with a dull metallic luster, and the overall posture was like a dragon, but the sharp beak was like a bird's beak. A pair of huge and curved horns stretched out from the top of the dark purple beast. In addition, his arms were thick. The huge wings on his back looked like dragons, birds, and demon wings. What on earth is this? There is no doubt that the evil breath belongs to Dantalion, to a demon god. But what is that sacred feeling? Izir has never seen such a demon. Never seen such a demon god. And Qin Ren also feels very good about this new fusion posture. Demon incarnation, eclipse, unique passive, flame eclipse, immune to fire attribute attacks. Light and evil attribute attack effects are halved. Fire, light, and evil attribute skills gain 500% effect increase. Monoflow attack is converted to fire and evil attributes. Unique passive, shadow in the mirror. You can directly attack the target through the target's reflection in the mirror. Unique passive, mirror travel. You can move through the smooth mirror surface. Unique active, eclipse. Reduce health points. Convert health points into magic power. Increase evil attribute damage, and increase holy attribute damage received. Unique active, mirror image. Consume 10% of health points and mana points to create a mirror image. When the main body encounters fatal damage, it will replace death. Chapter 332. So why does everyone explode? The demon dragon eclipse, obtained by fusing the Duke of Mirror and the winged dragon of the sun god with the Eye of Fusion, Looks pretty good. Although it has lost some skills, it is a pity that it cannot be used now. The power possessed by the demon god Izir is quite slippery. If it slips away and Izir runs away, it will not be fun. He can't catch up with Izir. Wait a minute. Qin Ren's eyes are fixed on the skill, Move in the Mirror. Although he has not used this skill yet, he can still subtly feel the extent of his power and his current state of being transformed into the demon dragon Eclipse. If there are more mirrors on Izir's escape route, he can still catch up with Izir. However, if there are no mirrors on Izir's escape route, then he will definitely not be able to catch up. But forget it, Izir is too slippery. If he accidentally lets her run away, it will be too much of a loss. After thinking it over, Qin Ren decided not to do anything fancy and just kill Izir directly. As for the performance of the demon dragon Eclipse, it would be left to the remaining two demons, or Drake. These thoughts only took a moment. The next moment, Qin Ren's thick dark purple dragon claws made a grabbing motion towards Izir. Then, Izir only felt a space crack slowly unfolding in front of him. The speed of unfolding was not fast, but at this moment, Izir could not resist at all, and his power was restricted by the power of prophecy. He could only fully stimulate the power in his body and try to escape in one direction through the ordinary movement method that he had not used for who knows how long. Qin Ren, who transformed into the demon dragon Eclipse, had dark purple flames on his body, which gathered into a giant claw. "Sir, your Death Star is shining." Qin Ren waved his giant claws and smashed Izir towards the crack leading to the yellow sand world. "Let's see how deep the deepest darkness is." After saying this subconsciously, Qin Ren suddenly realized that the dark purple appearance of the demon dragon Eclipse was indeed quite similar to the Death Star series skin in the leak. Maybe it should be called Death Star Eclipse. It sounds pretty cool. Izir hadn't reacted to this series of actions before he was slapped towards the yellow sand world channel that had just been opened. Izir, who had completely turned into a demon, roared. Although he didn't know where this space rift led to, Izir also knew that it must be a place that was disadvantageous to him. "You can't escape." Looking at Izir's attempt to struggle and escape, Qin Ren smiled, and a grim smile appeared on his hideous face. An evil voice with an echo sounded, and his mana was consumed again, turning into chains that shot out from Qin Ren's body and bound Izir's body. At the same time, dense dark purple flames appeared around Qin Ren's body. The magic flames representing the eclipse gathered into a dark purple giant claw again, grabbing the demon Izir in his hand. The flame with evil and fire attributes is characterized by erosion and burning. The moment the purple giant claws grabbed the demon Izir felt the horrible burning sensation that continued to penetrate into his body from the outside to the inside. "Who are you?" Izir was both horrified and unwilling, and resentment appeared on his no longer handsome and ferocious face. "It feels very similar to Dantlian, but this is definitely not Dantlian. Since you asked sincerely, I will tell you mercifully." "Don't struggle, Izir. Dantlian is me." Qin Ren didn't intend to play the classic flag plot where the protagonist proudly stated the facts before dying and was then killed by the protagonist. Or, "Dantlian is me, but I am not Dantlian." Qin Ren didn't want to satisfy Izir's wish before he died, and continued to fool him. "You don't obey the myth because you don't want to be sealed anymore." And Qin Ren didn't say more, because he didn't know. After all, it was made up. Obviously, Izir seemed to remember something after hearing this. He was shocked, his face was full of disbelief, and his eyes almost popped out. "Could it be that you? Since you understand, let's go." "Although I don't know what you understand, it's over." Qin Ren's body was rippling with a dark purple, evil and hot power, with a sneer on the corner of his mouth, like a villain. "Danlin, you and I walked out of the blood and flesh of hell. We shouldn't slaughter each other." Izir roared unwillingly, trying to break free from the chains of prophecy power. However, Qin Ren, who turned into an eclipse, had increased to 8C at this time, and his powerful force was close to that of the enemy country. Izir couldn't resist it. Whether it was Malmo, Huala, or Danlin's memory, there were descriptions of the strength of the 72 pillars of demon gods. Most of them were only at the city level or even lower than the city level. Only the 4 supreme pillars, the kings of the 4 directions of hell, were close to the country level. And Izir, Qin Ren could sense his strength, and estimated that it was about 3C. In the memories of the demon gods such as Hual, Zir's peak period could reach the strength of the 4 pillars above. It's a pity that you are not at your peak now. Boom. Almost at the moment when Zir's words fell, the evil flames surrounding Qin Ren spread along the chains created by the power of prophecy, burning Zir, who was caught by the hand of eclipse. Zir's face, which was originally full of pain, was even more distorted at this time, the principle of the operation of all things. However, at this time, Zir roared wildly, exerting all his strength with all his strength, without any room for maneuver, and bursting out all his strength regardless of everything. Faintly, a strange evil chanting sound emerged and spread to the entire sky. The content of this evil chanting also made Qin Ren feel a sense of heaviness. His body gradually stiffened, and even his thinking stopped. He could feel that the power that erupted from Zir's body, the eclipse power that he used to enter the eclipse state and convert the mana into eclipse power, was almost unbearable. In other words, this guy's power was gradually approaching the national level. Why did he explode again? Qin Ren felt that he was really screwed. Why did all his enemies explode? This familiar feeling was just like when he dealt with Horus before. Qin Ren also immediately activated the active skill of the eclipse state, converting health points into magic power. The power life conversion skill of the pterosaur was also inherited in the eclipse, which could convert health points into power. Although there were some changes and it could not convert magic power into health points, it got an additional buff, and the damage of evil attributes was increased. Qin Ren's own body also burned with a dark purple flame, and a sense of pain permeated his body, but in this flame, he also felt that his strength was increasing. Without hesitation, Qin Ren increased the output of the power of prophecy. The chains made of dark purple flames that penetrated Zir's body and locked his power became thicker and stronger. Then, Qin Ren swung a pair of giant claws and smashed Zir into the passage connecting to the yellow sand world. It turns out that if you have a chance to kill as soon as possible, Lang will get into trouble. Chapter 333, Infiltration in the Mirror. Relative Seeker. Mastering the principle of the operation of things. Being able to approach an object and detect hidden objects. After Zir was slapped into the yellow sand world by him and killed by the main body, Qin Ren got a new power, and this power is not simple. Relative Seeker. How to say it? This power has limitations, that is, he must pursue a certain object. However, the objects that can be pursued are very wide. If you pursue lightning, you will get a speed close to lightning and the high temperature brought by lightning, and release light. If you pursue light, you will have a speed close to light and also have the properties of light. However, you will get the advantages of the object you are pursuing, and you will also inherit the weaknesses of the object you are pursuing. If you become light, you will have the disadvantage of being able to move in a straight line, and you must adjust the direction repeatedly. In fact, Zir can indeed move at the speed of light, but because the earth is round, Zir needs to adjust the direction repeatedly when moving forward, otherwise he will fly out of the earth. Therefore, normally, light can circle the earth 7 times in 1 second, but Zir cannot circle the earth at the speed of light because he repeatedly adjusts his direction. He can circle the earth more than 3 times in 1 second, half a second of which is moving forward and the remaining half a second is adjusting the direction. If he wants to go to the other side of the earth, his best route is to fly out of the earth in a straight line, turn back in a straight line through a triangular route, and only adjust the direction once, which is the fastest. In addition, if he pursues light, he will also be reflected. In fact, if Zir pursues light, the power of eclipse can indeed restrain Zir. By making a mirror, Zir can be directly trapped in a cage. But Zir is also super slippery. If he is trapped by the mirror, he can even directly pursue Qin Ren and obtain Qin Ren's ability to shuttle through the mirror. Oh my god. Fortunately I didn't delay time with him, and directly used the power of prophecy to silence and imprison him, preventing him from using the power. If it takes too long, this guy will be able to use the power to run away, and he will not be able to find him even if he wants to. Qin Ren once again lamented the wisdom of his decision. However, this power of pursuit is still limited. He cannot pursue those abstract goals without concrete images. For example, if he wants to pursue philosophy or art, The goal he can pursue can only be something that exists objectively, and it must be something that he understands. In the Solomon demon god myth constructed by later generations, the 72 powerful demons served by the ancient King Solomon were almost all scholars who mastered ancient knowledge and secret arts. In the demon god myth version, the prosperity of Solomon's kingdom depends on the knowledge granted by each demon god, who all knows the past and the present, and it is no problem for him to be considered a historian and political scientist. Malmo is proficient in philosophical speculation and can talk to the dead. Dantlion is proficient in art and science, and is familiar with people's hearts. Anzir, like other demon gods, has a lot of knowledge in his head. Qin Ren flipped through his memory. Izir can be said to be a naturalist. Nowadays, if you are a demon without a scholar's degree, you are embarrassed to say that you are a demon. Qin Ren sighed at the harsh entry requirements of the demon society. However, it is a pity that Izir does not have the power to curb the movement of others. It seems that he can only use the power of prophecy to deal with the Black Prince Drake and a group of god-killers. The power of prophecy is indeed omnipotent. It can imprison, silence, and achieve various control effects. It can even strengthen oneself through prophecy, but it is relatively low in consumption and strength. How to say it? If Qin Ren uses an ordinary control skill and needs 1 blue, then using the power of prophecy to achieve the same control effect will cost at least 2 blue. It is okay to use it occasionally, but it is easy to cause trouble if you use it too much. Qin Ren has the skill of Endless Land, which can get a 5-fold blood and blue recovery buff, but it can't withstand such consumption. After all, his mana limit is still only 5D. This is why Qin Ren has many skills, but he can't use them at will. Some skills consume too much mana. For example, the continuous transformation skills of the Sun God's Winged Dragon consume a lot of mana. It is easy to run out of mana when using skills. Once the mana is exhausted, the transformation will end and become a younger brother, so all kinds of pretense and momentum are used to increase the recovery effect. Now, while the eclipse state is not over yet, go and test Drake's weight. The demon dragon Eclipse roared to the sky, flapped its huge dark purple magic wings, and the whole body drilled into the sea. The sea surface is also a mirror. Qin Ren, who drilled into the mirror, instantly felt a sense of weirdness. This is his first time entering this world. How to say it? This world feels very similar to the normal world, almost exactly the same. However, this world has an inexplicable sense of distortion. Mirror image. Everything here is a mirror image. The whole world is upside down. He couldn't help but think of the reverse world where the Pluto dragon lived in the PM series. But there are many differences. There are no creatures in the reverse world, but there are many creatures here. There are all kinds of creatures. But in fact, they are just mirror images of the normal world, without independent consciousness and senses. These fish and shrimps didn't notice Qin Ren at all, and didn't notice Qin Ren, this huge creature like a demon. But Qin Ren could observe them and even attack them. This is invincible. Just looking at the skills, Qin Ren didn't feel anything too strong, and didn't have an intuitive feeling. Now, after really moving to the mirror world through the mirror, he felt how buggy this effect of being able to directly damage the target by attacking the target's mirror image was. No, it's not completely buggy. People with light power or dark power can detect him. In comparison, the reason for the mirror image is actually light, but if used well, without choosing a target with light power, the effect is still quite strong, and it can produce unexpected effects. I just don't know if Drake's thunder power can detect him. Let's try it. At the same time, Drake, who was taking a helicopter to the Azores, suddenly frowned. For some reason, he felt a sense of uneasiness. It seemed that some threat was approaching, and some powerful creature was approaching him. The god of disobedience? Drake muttered to himself. He had never felt this uneasy before. Moreover, this uneasy feeling came from his power of thunder. Could it be the god of disobedience who could control thunderstorms and the intelligence? Drake made a slightly doubtful judgment. At this moment, a bright blue lightning flashed through his mind. Under the lightning, a purple terrifying giant was rushing towards him with a ferocious look. Chapter 334 The Three Goddesses of Vengeance. This inexplicable situation frightened Drake, and in an instant, He used the power of thunder obtained from the fallen angel Remiel, in the mirror world. When Qin Ren, who was in the eclipse state, pounced on Drake, he saw Drake turned into a blue lightning with a look of horror and flew out of the helicopter. Is it really detectable? The power of thunder can detect him. After Qin Ren secretly took note, he did not continue to chase, just watching Drake's mirror image from a distance. However, Drake's reaction next made Qin Ren a little confused. After escaping the helicopter as a blue thunder, the opponent's sight was obviously looking around, not looking in the direction of Qin Ren. Moreover, his sight wandered on the helicopter, with doubts, as if confirming why the helicopter was not destroyed. After seeing Drake escape from the helicopter, Qin Ren stopped attacking, or in other words, he did not attack at all. Although it is impossible to avoid it with a flat attack, it will be wrong to attack with a flat attack. Just now, he rushed towards the entire helicopter, but he was originally trying to test it. He had room to escape. If Drake could sense him or even counterattack, he could dodge. But can this guy see him? Drake's reaction is very strange. Now it seems that he has sensed the danger and subconsciously dodged, but he has no idea where the danger comes from. Qin Ren, who doesn't quite understand what Drake's reaction is, decided to test it again. However, he must prepare to save his life first. Mirror image. With the surge of mana, dark purple flames surged from Qin Ren's body and condensed into a second eclipse. Compared with Qin Ren, who is the original body of the eclipse, the color of this mirror image is slightly dim. After condensing the mirror image, Qin Ren once again rushed towards Drake, who was alert and motionless in the air with half of his body turned into lightning. A pair of huge dragon claws instantly ignited with terrifying evil flames, smashing towards the center from the left and right directions, determined to kill Drake directly. At the same time, Drake, who had been suspended in the air, was puzzled. In his mind, the azure lightning flashed again, illuminating the terrifying face of the demon god. Seeing the two terrifying dark purple claws closing from both sides, Drake was extremely shocked. He had no time to think about who this terrifying monster was and why it attacked him. He immediately used his power again, and the azure lightning covered his entire body. Seeing that Drake was about to escape from his hands, the Qin people immediately used Hual's prophetic power skillfully. You can't escape. The moment he heard this voice, Drake felt a force pulling his body from behind, blocking his escape. This force was not too strong, but it was this little force that made his escape distance a little shorter. Boom! The dark purple claws closed and enveloped Drake's mirror image body. With a loud bang, the terrifying shockwave instantly enveloped an area with a radius of nearly 1,000 kilometers. The sea surface in the mirror world was blasted into a huge dent by the aftermath of the horrific explosion, and a 1,000-meter-high wave was shaken. And with such a horrible force bombarding, Drake's mirror image was completely destroyed in an instant. Although he had a very high speed, he did not have any strong defensive power, and the impact of the destruction of the mirror image was instantly reflected on Drake in the real world. The young god slayer, who had not yet figured out what was going on, suddenly felt a series of horrible burning and tearing sensations coming, and it exploded in an instant. What happened? Drake, who was shrouded in pain, tried to use the power of the fallen angel Remiel and tried to transform into lightning to avoid damage. But what happened next made his eyes widen. Transforming into lightning did not allow him to escape this inexplicable power. With his last bit of strength, Drake screamed and used another power. Daughter of the eternal night, daughter of the earth and shadow, fight evil with evil, pay sin with sin, sacrifice blood with blood, tooth for tooth. This is the starting point of revenge, the blood of the mother killed by the enemy, the most tragic death, to tell you that it is impossible to repay the favor. Ghost Girl Mojira, Avenger Disciple, Endless Electu, bounce the curse back and complete the revenge. Now is the time for revenge. Amidst Drake's shrill screams, 3 female phantoms emerged behind Drake. Each of them was a terrifying goddess with black wings like a crow and long hair like a venomous snake, and this shrill roar was the best hymn to call the goddess of vengeance. Since Drake used the power of the goddess of vengeance, the terrifying impact reflected from the mirror world to Drake was blocked by these 3 terrifying goddesses. A second before Drake's consciousness completely dissipated, It was reflected out. The mirror world released a terrifying impact on Drake's mirror image. After tearing Drake's mirror image into pieces, Qin Ren felt a sense of uneasiness. At the moment when Drake's mirror image was completely shattered, Qin Ren's uneasiness also came. A terrifying force impact hit Qin Ren's body. Although this force was not as strong as the attack Qin Ren launched on Drake's mirror image before, it was enough to kill Qin Ren. Qin Ren's movements suddenly stopped, and his face was instantly covered with pain. A terrifying impact emerged on the body of the demon dragon Eclipse, which was like a demon and a giant dragon. Just like the attack that Qin Ren had just released the Eclipse flame on Drake's mirror image and caused an explosion, Qin Ren was now suffering from the same impact. The head with huge horns emerged with evil and burning purple flames. In addition, there was an additional force full of strong hatred and revenge. Drake's power, the power obtained from the goddess of vengeance Erinys in Greek mythology. Qin Ren recalled the record of Drake's power in the Council of Sages. Drake's second power, the goddess of vengeance. All attacks such as destruction, attack, blow, and curse blocked by the three goddesses of vengeance will be rebounded to the perpetrator. Even if the evil attribute power damage in the impact is halved and the fire attribute damage is completely erased, the remaining half of the evil attribute damage in the revenge spell attached to it will instantly tear the body of the demon dragon Eclipse. However, Qin Ren had expected it. The mirror image created at the cost of 10% of the life value glowed with evil light at the moment when Qin Ren was hit by a fatal blow. The impact on the Eclipse body was instantly transferred to the mirror Eclipse. An assassin with high burst will either kill or be killed instantly when attacking a fragile skin. Qin Ren also breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the mirror Eclipse disappear and a soul light ball suddenly appearing in the yellow sand world. Fortunately, Drake could not observe him completely, and the opponent seemed to be able to detect his attack only temporarily. But even if the mirror image doesn't work, he still has several other ways to save his life. Chapter 335 5 Powers. The Battle of the Fragile Skins ended. Drake, wearing the anti-armor, used the anti-injury to knock off a piece of the Qin people's resurrection armor, but he only had armor and no health, so he was too fragile and died directly. In addition, Drake's power was also taken by the Qin people. In the original work, the cursed power of the god of disobedience would be taken away by the ring of usurpation in the body of the god killer, and the god killer would be able to obtain power because of this, but it was not said whether the power of the god killer would be usurped by others. After all, no one has killed the god killer. Even if he was killed, as Pandora's adopted son, it is not certain whether Pandora would help the person who killed the god killer to transfer the power of the god killer to the other party through the ring of usurpation. There was no surprise here for the Qin people. Whether it is an ordinary person, a god of disobedience or a god killer, the target killed by the Qin people will have everything collected into the yellow sand world and become the nutrients of the yellow sand world. There will be no exception just because Drake is a god killer. Black Thunder, release lightning attacks or turn the body into lightning in a large area. When turned into lightning, the speed and agility are increased, and physical attacks are immune, but the magic resistance will be reduced to 0. Revenge Judgment. After opening the revenge field, condense the phantom of the goddess of revenge. All direct and indirect attacks received within the range will be returned to the target and additional damage will be added. Multiple revenge fields can be deployed at the same time. After the goddess of revenge suffers damage exceeding the upper limit, the anti-injury effect is lifted. Charging can increase the upper limit in range of damage. Great Labyrinth. Transform the terrain on a large scale and create a large labyrinth. It can trap and exclude the designated target. The user can teleport at will in the labyrinth. The Minotaur puppet can be created to replace the control of the large labyrinth. It takes a long time to charge. Faceless Queen. Summon the double-winged and double-tailed mermaid Queen Melusine in a spirit form as a servant to dominate. Melusine's face cannot be seen, otherwise she will disappear. Greedy Magic Ball. Create a black sphere with strong gravity to attract and bind everything around. 5 Powers. Black Thunder is, needless to say, Drake's core power. It has both advantages and disadvantages. It is useless to Qin Ren. For physical immunity, Qin Ren has the Sand Fruit. For speed, Qin Ren has various acceleration skills. In addition, Qin Ren has just obtained the power of Relative Seeker, which makes him much faster. It is really stupid to reduce magic resistance to 0. As for releasing thunder to cause large-scale damage, does Qin Ren lack damage? No. And for thunder attribute damage, Qin Ren has the Ram of Thebes and the arcane pulse of Zerat obtained from Mammon Zeus. It can be said that the first power is useless to Qin Ren. The second power, Vengeance Judgment, is quite good. It's not that he is interested in the anti-injury. This skill can also be regarded as a shield. Qin Ren doesn't care whether it can resist or not. Qin Ren is not short of that little output. What he likes is the effect of being able to block all attacks. Horus, as a classic case of revenge against Set, is also the god of revenge in Egyptian mythology. But the Qin people did not get Horus's revenge power, but got it from Drake. It's just that there is an upper limit to the damage, and it needs to be charged. Otherwise, if it is instant, the upper limit of the damage is low. Although Drake hurt him, he was still killed because the damage exceeded the upper limit of the instant damage. The third power, the Big Maze, the Minotaur, the power from the maze monster Minotaur, the prototype of common monsters in European and American games, and also the most famous human beast book. After Minos usurped power and became the new king of Crete, he prayed to Poseidon for a miracle to prove that his usurpation of power was legitimate. So Poseidon gave Minos a huge white bull and asked him to sacrifice it to himself. However, Minos was courting death. He thought the bull was too good-looking, so he intercepted it and slaughtered another bull for sacrifice. Well, you begged me to put on a show for you. I gave you all the materials and asked you to pretend, but you still tried to cheat me. The angry Poseidon cursed Minos' wife Pasiphae, causing her to suffer from zoophilia. In order to hide his shame, Minos invited the famous sculptor Daedalus to make a wooden cow for Pasiphae and hide her inside it. Because it was too realistic, the white bull took a fancy to the cow and mated with it, and Pasiphae became pregnant. Later, she gave birth to a monster with a bull's head and a human body, the Minotaur, which literally means Minos' bull. Well, Minos was cheated, and he was cheated by the bull. The word Minotaur originally means NTR. The Greek mythology circle was already chaotic, and the god King Zeus was also that cool, not to mention other things, and both human and animal NTR were played happily. As for this power itself, Qin Ren actually didn't think much of it. In the Yellow Sand world, he easily created several cities, and creating Minotaur puppets was even more useless. However, his will incarnation did not have the ability to shape a city by raising his hand. It was barely usable, but the long charging time meant that this skill was destined to not be used frequently. The fourth power is the water spirit in the clear water or holy river in European folk tales, often wandering around the riverbank in the form of a mermaid spirit with wings and two tails. It feels like a water elemental spirit similar to Undine. In fact, it is just to create a servant that is almost at the level of a subordinate god. For example, the four sons of Canopus are at the level of subordinate gods, not very strong. It can be said that Qin Ren has 3 subordinates, Frozen Earth, Purgatory, and 32, and any one of them is much stronger than this faceless queen. The fifth power is the greedy magic ball. There is a lot to say about this. In the Bible, God created Behemoth and Leviathan with clay on the 6th day. The greedy sphere is the power of Behemoth. To be precise, it is Behemoth's ability to devour everything. What? You don't know Behemoth? You must know Behemoth, right? You must know Bahamut, right? Behemoth is another name for Behemoth, and Bahamut is Behemoth. Behemoth is the largest creature on land, the beast of the earth, which can devour 1,000 mountains every day and can devour everything. Moreover, in some versions, Behemoth becomes the king of greed among the 7 kings of hell. There are many things to say about these, but the key is to see the effect. After the God Slayer obtains the curse power of the god of disobedience, he will change his power according to his personality. For example, this Behemoth, if it was Marquis Valben who obtained it, it would probably turn Marquis Valben into Behemoth to devour everything. But for Drake, who is good at strategy and makes plans before taking action, the effect becomes to attract and bind the enemy. Unfortunately, there was no change here for the Qin people, but they took it as it was. Chapter 336 Thunderstorm Tsunami. When Qin killed Drake and obtained his power, in the Yellow Sand world, the three bases of the Sky Pillar representing Nut, the Rain Pillar representing Tefnut, and the Earth Pillar representing Jeb were lifted up a lot, especially the Earth Pillar. The power from the Labyrinth Monster, the Minotaur, and the Earth Beast Behemoth raised the Earth Pillar by half. However, although the elevation was a little higher, it did not go directly to the sky like the three pillars of the Demon Pillar, the Sun Pillar, and the Frozen Earth Pillar. In the final analysis, it was because there was no corresponding god. It must have self-awareness like Purgatory, 32, and Frozen Earth. Qin shook his head and did not dwell on this matter anymore. What he had to do now was to eliminate the two demons disguised as U.S. military officers on the Azores. And Horus's fusion power was released, and Eclipse was restored to the winged dragon of the Sun God and the Duke of Mirror. After the fusion was resolved, Qin Ren immediately used Antalin's power and transformed into Drake's appearance. With Drake's soul light ball, it would be easy for Qin Ren to disguise himself as Drake. In the future, it would be more convenient for him to act. Moreover, after becoming a god slayer, his ideas could be implemented. But before that, he had better go to find Fergallo and Furfa. It's normal for a god slayer to attack a disobedient god. I, Drake, the god slayer, want to find out. At the same time, on the Azores, the two demon gods Furfa and Furfa looked extremely solemn. Izir hadn't come back yet. Fergallo only asked Izir to confirm Antalin's location and another uncertain target. But now, Izir hadn't come back yet. With his understanding of Izir would not be delayed. What happened? Furfa was about to ask, but suddenly noticed that the sky had become gloomy. The next moment, countless dark clouds gathered, and layers of thick dark clouds covered the sky like a black curtain. Raining? No. Hearing Fergallo's mumbling, Fa suddenly realized that this was definitely not a natural phenomenon. He could control wind, rain, and lightning, so he could clearly feel that the dark clouds and rain were abnormal. Moreover, there was power in the rain. Without any hesitation, Fa immediately used his power. Boom boom boom. Thunder roared without any sign, and the wind began to increase rapidly. A violent storm formed instantly, and the storm formed a barrier that blocked all the raindrops. As expected, these words suddenly came out of Fufa's mouth. The storm barrier he created by using his power blocked the raindrops but was also torn apart by them. He could feel that the raindrops accumulated a huge force, a force stronger than his. And the owner of this power has come, just as Fufa felt. The next moment, a blue lightning suddenly flashed. Fergallo beside him also showed a solemn expression. The next moment, a figure flashing with lightning appeared in the vision of the two demons, Fergallo and Fufa. A young man in a suit. Compared to Fufa, who had just been summoned to the world, Fergallo clearly knew this god's lair whose territory was Britain. Drake. He called out the other party's name. Then, he saw Drake with a thoughtful expression. I didn't expect that there are gods of disobedience here. Atlantic Ocean. Are you the gods of disobedience in the Greek mythology system? You think I will tell you. But before Fergallo finished speaking, he felt a strong sense of danger. Such a feeling made him extremely frightened, and the next moment, he immediately mobilized all his strength and activated the demonization. His body instantly became hunched, and although he still had a human form, two wings grew on his back, like the huge wings of a griffin. Goo-oh-oh-oh. A sharp sound like a lion's roar and an eagle's cry came out of his mouth. While he was roaring in a high-pitched voice, the huge pair of wings were not idle either, and suddenly flapped, blowing up a fierce storm. Goo-oh-oh-oh. With another roar, the sea level around the Azores shook, and the tsunami swept up, gathering towards where Fergallo was at the will. Such a scene shocked the residents of the Azores. People wanted to know the situation of the abnormal movement, but were stunned. The sudden storm and thunder and lightning. The storm blew up heavy objects such as vehicle billboards and rolled them into the sky, and even heavy trucks were no exception, and the tsunami directly drowned everything. The shrill screams and frantic commotion. People wailed as if they had fallen into hell. Even the oldest people have never seen such a scene in the Azores. They fled in panic and hid in all the buildings they could. For Drake, or for the Qin people, Fugalu's performance was undoubtedly the power related to storm and ocean. It is absolutely true that the god of disobedience will bring disaster. Even if the other party is forced to fight back, it cannot change the disaster caused by the other party. And Fugalu usually likes to overturn ships for fun. Today he overturned several American battleships, and the day after tomorrow he overturned several Russian passenger ships. A few days ago, he deliberately guided Falfa to destroy 2 American battleships. From this aspect alone, he is quite consistent with the image of the sea god in some fishermen's myths. Even so, the fact that the other party is a demon god has not changed. Qin Ren played Drake, and after watching the other party's series of movements, he also took action. His whole body became ethereal and turned into thunder. Moreover, the color gradually changed from azure blue to pitch black. The pitch black thunder splashed out from him, poured into the clouds, and blasted towards the earth. Lightning flashed briefly from time to time in the dark sky covered with dark clouds, and the black thunder that fell from the sky burned the ground and destroyed the buildings. Looking at the sudden changes in Qin Ren, Fugalu also confirmed his identity. Fugalu's wings vibrated, and while raising the storm barrier, he immediately warned Falfa next to him. He is the god killer. Alexander Gascoigne, be careful of his power, you don't have to tell me. Fufa naturally knew that he had bad intentions, and gorgeous flames like fire and gold gushed out of his body. The next moment, his body changed from a human form to a stag with huge horns. After transforming into a demon, the stag with flames surging around its body attacked the Qin people. I will curb his power. Fufa used his own power, trying to resist and even control the lightning released by the Qin people. Chapter 337 How to fight this. The lightning shattered, and the red stag directly crashed into Qin Ren, tearing apart the black thunder released by Qin Ren. On his body, endless flames were extremely violent, rippling and swaying with red light. Falfa seems to have the power to control lightning. Seeing the thunder being torn apart easily, Qin Ren also remembered the power of the demon god Falfa. However, it was useless. He silently grabbed Falfa, and the torn black thunder gathered again, forming claws, causing the flame defense on Joanna's body to crack inch by inch, and instantly covered with cracks. Lightning is under my control. The stag roared and roared, and the power of the demon god was activated again, and the gorgeous flames surging around him also surged. Qin Ren once again felt a force trying to intervene in the lightning. He transformed with mana. But this time, it was not so simple. The mana was surging, and as more mana was consumed, the shape of the black thunder claw that was about to collapse became solid, and Fufa could also feel that his power was completely isolated. How could it be, this kind of power? Before Fufa could figure it out, Qin Ren's condensed lightning claws grabbed Fufa's body mercilessly, causing the flame barrier to collapse directly, and even roasted the flesh and blood underneath to black, revealing the dark bones. I have never eaten roasted venison, and it was roasted with lightning. Qin Ren sniffed. He did not use other powers, but used Drake's power to confront Fufa head-on, and Fufa's flame stag flew backwards under this attack. Fugalu looked surprised and doubtful, but he also knew that he had to fight at this time. After the demonization, he was like a human griffin. His 2 eyes instantly became sharp and blood-red, like an evil griffin. The power of the storm. The visible storm condensed, as if the sky was cut into pieces, and countless translucent lines surrounded Qin Ren in the air. Fugalu, let's attack together. At this time, Fufa stood up again. There were still huge wounds on the body of the stag, but he didn't care at all, as if the fatal wound on the chest didn't hurt at all. It's not that he didn't care, but he didn't have time to care. I didn't expect that we would have this day to join forces. It's been a long time since we last met. Fufa's huge griffin wings flapped again, and the waves and storms intertwined. The endless storm rolled up the tsunami, forming a waterspout and attacked the Qin people. Fufa also used his power to control wind, rain, thunder and lightning to amplify Fufa's attack. I always feel that Drake's power is too monotonous. While complaining that Drake's attack used too little power, Qin Ren waved his left hand, and black thunder condensed and collided with the storm with a sense of tearing. With a roar, under the high temperature burning formed by the blazing black thunder, The storm was directly deformed and twisted, and was pierced by a claw. Seeing this scene, the demon Fufu's face turned pale. He now saw that the strength of the two was not as good as each other, but although they thought so, Qin Ren didn't think so. As expected, the demon god with offensive power is still strong. Qin Ren's current magic power level is 1.5 city level, but the strength of the two can almost tie with him. In other words, the strength of the two is about the same as his, but he is slightly higher. It's about 1C, about city level. And the previous Hual, Mamo, Dantalin and the like are only 5D, about half of the city level. The previous Izir had a strength of 3C before the explosion. However, it's still not as good as Drake. Drake's strongest strength is about 8C. Although it's not yet at the country level, it can be close to B level if it's desperate. The AO released in this state is feasible to cover the entire UK. The normal Drake, who avoids self-harm, can only use his full strength at about 5C. After all, no one can risk his life and go all out without regard for the consequences. According to Drake's own memory, he is in the middle of the group of god slayers. The strongest are Marquis Wuben and Master Luohao. Then comes Sword King Tony. Then comes Lady Aisha, whose specific strength is not sure. Next is him and the god killer who controls the United States. He can almost be said to be the lowest level. Moreover, he does not like and is not good at direct combat. According to the description in Drake's memory, the maximum strength of Marquis Wuben and Master Luohao is about 2B-3B. The maximum strength of Sword King Tony is between 1B and 2B. Drake is not sure about Lady Aisha's strength, but estimates it to be around 9C to 2B. But the power of the demon cave that Lady Aisha controls has the opportunity to exile all god killers. So the strength is uncertain. And the American god killer who calls himself Hades has a maximum strength of 9C to 1B. Speaking of which, Drake is the weakest among the god killers. When Qin Ren transformed into Eclipse before, he was still worried that he was not strong enough and could not fight Drake. But in fact, Qin Ren could fight Drake head-on. However, Drake is also the most difficult one, because his power of thunder can give him an advantage in speed, and he also has tricky power of revenge. In the case that most of the god killers are fragile, if he has the advantage of speed and seizes the opportunity, his 8C attack power can also kill most of the god killers in seconds. And the existence of revenge damage makes him not afraid of any god killer. Of course, for god killers like Luohao and Sword King Tony who not only have super attack power but are also good at combat skills, Drake has the speed advantage, but it is hard to say whether he can have the combat advantage. Qin Ren's mind was distracted for a while, and his eyes turned to the water tornado released by Fgaro and amplified by Falfa's power again. The momentum of this attack is extremely huge. A huge water tornado thousands of meters high, storms gathered, and lightning flashed. With such an attack, it is easy to destroy a city, and it is no surprise that it wants to destroy a small country. 1 + 1 = 5? Mathematical genius. It must be said that Falfa and Falfa, two demons whose powers overlap partially, can achieve power amplification. Among the 72 demons, except for the 4 supreme pillars, most of the demons are at the city level, that is, C level. The 4 supreme pillars have strength close to the main gods, and may be close to B level. In addition, because the strength of the god of disobedience often differs from the myth, it is strengthened or weakened a lot. At present, the cooperation of these two demons, under the condition of good adaptability, can already reach the full force of releasing thunder in the same state as Drake. If Drake really comes here by himself, it may be another narrow escape from death. If Izir is still here, Drake will be miserable, and the chance of survival is very small. But it is also right, according to past memories, the God Slayer basically ended the fight with the God of Disobedience with a bloody battle, which is quite consistent. But the problem is that Qin Ren's current magic power is only 1.5C. How can he fight? It's just right to face it head-on. They were pretending to be so good before. How come these people can all explode? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338. Do you know about Professor Z's Internet Addiction Treatment Center? Since you guys have combined your moves, you can't blame me for cheating. Faced with a huge water tornado filled with a sense of tearing, Qin Ren immediately used the moves he had tried before. Eye of Fusion. However, Qin Ren did not fuse anything else, but Arcane Pulse. As mentioned before, Horus's Eye of Fusion power is to fuse with the corresponding target. Eye of Fusion. Through the corresponding symbols of the gods, a new image is fused and new power is obtained. The power obtained is different depending on the strength of the symbol. Qin Ren has been wondering, can skills other than power be used as fusion targets? The first successful result was not the winged dragon of the sun god, but the arcane pulse and the ram of Thebes. And the result was also successful. This time, he wanted to use the newly acquired thunder. Along with the surge of mana, arcane pulse, black thunder, ram of Thebes, and eye of fusion, in the skill column disappeared together. The next moment, a new skill appeared. Incarnation of God, Lightning Witch Spirit. The only passive skill, Energy Storage Body. The lightning attribute attack damage received will be absorbed and immune to physical attacks. The light and sun attribute attacks received will have their effects halved. The lightning attribute skills will gain a 600% effect increase, and the light attribute skills will gain a 200% effect increase. Mana Flow attack is converted to lightning attribute. The only active skill, Surge Lightning, continuously radiates surge lightning in one direction. After the continuous radiation ends, the mana recovery speed is increased by 100%. The only active skill, Thunder Flame Charge. After charging, launch a high-speed attack towards the enemy, radiating lightning flames to all surrounding targets. The only active one, Explosion Mode. After charging, enter the explosion mode. Mana consumption increases. Fixed in place and unable to move, magic resistance is reduced to 0, and during the duration, all thunder attribute attacks have an additional 50% increase in power. Additional evil attributes are added, and the attack distance is increased to 10 times. The result obtained after fusing 3 skills with the Eye of Fusion. Moreover, because he used the 3 thunder attribute powers of Arcane Pulse, Ram of Thebes and Black Thunder as fusion materials, the amplification effect reached 600%, compared with the 500% increase of the winged dragon of the sun god alone. The amplification of a single power is less. Buzz buzz buzz! Exclamation mark with the roar of the thunderstorm. Fufa and Fugalo also discovered the violent lightning emanating from the Qin people. The dazzling and scorching blue lightning was bright and dazzling, and even the sky was torn apart by the violent lightning. Fufa, Fugalo roared, flapping his huge wings, urging the water tornado to attack the Qin people. I know. The face of the deer Fufan also showed a humanized solemnity. The breath of storm and lightning suddenly condensed in his body, and the terrifying power formed continued to surge towards the huge vortex condensed by the two people, and together controlled the vortex to roll towards the Qin people. Such an old magic! You want to defeat me? The Qin people, whose body was completely transformed into human-shaped lightning, slowly said the lines of Zerat, and then raised his hands, and surging lightning surged from the hands of the Qin people. See my power! Buzz buzz buzz, accompanied by the flashing of lightning in the sky. It seemed that the whole sky seemed to be trembling, and a large number of twisting and violent lightning shot towards the water column rushing out of the sea. Boom boom boom! Exclamation mark! The violent lightning penetrated the vortex water column rolled by the sea water, and burst into a strong explosion. In the next moment, the huge water column entangled by the azure thunder, the clear blue sea water, and the dark green storm completely exploded, forming a shock wave that destroyed everything. In a few seconds, the terrifying shock spread thousands of kilometers. These shock waves filled with lightning energy enveloped all creatures within a range of thousands of kilometers. Under the sea, up to a depth of 100 meters, marine creatures were directly killed by the rapidly spreading lightning shock. It is illegal to electrocute fish, Qin Ren complained in his heart. His eyes focused on Fufa and Fugalo. The lightning that continued to emit, After penetrating the vortex water column and tearing the storm, shot towards Fufa and Fugalo. Damn it! Seeing the two people's combined attack being torn apart, Fugalo's already uneasy mood began to panic, and Fufa certainly understood at this time that with the speed of the lightning, he could not dodge it at all. With two antlers raised, lightning flashed, and Fufa directly pushed forward. With the power of lightning, he tried to forcibly block this attack, and watching Fufa's actions, Qin Ren was also stunned. Just use your head to block it? You are really stubborn. With a 600% increase in the lightning witch state, Qin Ren's magic power has reached 9C. It can be said that it is almost at the national level. You dare to put this on your head? It seems that you are too addicted to the internet and need to continue to treat it. Boom. The magic power was surging, and it was continuously transformed into lightning energy, pouring out from his hands, condensing into surging lightning and shooting towards Fufa. If Fufa could still rely on the power of lightning to barely withstand Qin Ren's lightning attribute attack, but he couldn't withstand the continuous attack. The second after forcibly resisting the surging lightning, Fufa's antlers broke directly. In the azure thunderstorm, a flash of red flashed, and the broken antlers flew out directly, and Fufa was also washed by the surging lightning after the antlers broke. It was quite spectacular for a small male deer to resist the 100-meter thick lightning column with antlers, and the scene of a female deer being annihilated in the lightning column was equally spectacular. The next moment, the energy storm dissipated, revealing Qin Ren's azure energy body. He looked at the completely destroyed island with a blank expression. When Qin Ren stopped using his skills, Fufa's body had completely disappeared. And Fugalo, when Fufa was resisting the lightning column, this guy just slipped away. Fufa risked his life to block the gun, and you, a turtle son, sold him out? Qin Ren complained in his heart. However, he accidentally destroyed an entire island. Should he use the time-space rupture, or go after Fugalo? Qin Ren chose without hesitation. Go after Fugalo. Looking at the figure riding the storm and flapping its huge wings and moving away quickly, Qin Ren's eyes glowed with a glimmer. Just right. The thunder flame charge hasn't been used yet. With a roar, the lightning and thunder gathered on Qin Ren's body, and his energy body swelled and became thick, with two goat horns extending from his head, and his hands and feet turned into goat hooves. Call of the Forge God? No, this should be called the Thunder Lord's Call. With violent lightning gushing out of his body, Qin Ren also rushed out. P.S. Now I realize that the Ram of Thebes looks like Orn's ultimate move after using the Thunder Lord's skin. Chapter 339 God of Wind and Thunder. Without any suspense, Fugalo, who tried to escape by riding the wind and waves, was played dead by Qin Ren and turned into a roasted chicken. At the moment when its soul light ball appeared in the yellow sand world, Qin Ren's skill bar also added a skill: Raging Wind and Waves, control wind and sea, create storms, gather waves, and cause additional damage to ships and crew targets. Special attack on ships and crew, because they often overturn ships. This power is not much different from what Qin Ren expected. And Fufa's power: Wind and Thunder Horn, control wind, rain, thunder and lightning. Super short. After roughly browsing his memory, Qin Ren gave their soul light ball to 32 Devour. After watching her snake head grow another one and become an 8-headed giant snake, Qin Ren did not give her the soul light balls of Fufa and Fugalo, because he was going to use the soul light balls of Fufa and Fugalo to shape the Pillar of Wind. However, Qin Ren was a little entangled about the image of this wind god. It's not that I don't know the image of Shu, the god of wind. She looks like a man or a baboon, but Qin Ren thinks that's not special at all. He wants to make it special. The previous 32 was a complete accident. Purgatory, representing the sun pillar, is a golden dragon, barely a winged dragon of the sun god. Just as decided before, starting with the frozen earth, the image of the god is shaped according to the appearance of the heroes of the Shurima camp. Representing the nether pillar, that is, the pillar of Osiris, Qin Ren shaped the frozen earth in the image of the dog-headed Nasus. Then, is there wind in the Shurima camp, which represents wind. It seems that there is no yellow chicken, it is an eagle. But the prototype is the King Horus, and the skills are all sand related to Horus's enemy set. Forget it. After all, Qin Ren himself often uses this appearance. The current heroes of the Shurima camp: Izir, dog-headed Nasus, Sivir, crocodile Renuktan, Zerat, dragon turtle Ramus, Amumu, scorpion Skarner, Talia, living in Shurima are Cassiopeia, Gyra the rising of thorns, Nidalee, Ringer, and the void burrower, or excavator. Others related to Shurima include Darkened Blade and Vars the arrow of punishment. But speaking of it, 32 can also be regarded as corresponding to Cassiopeia, although she is from the Noxus lineup, but it seems that none of them feel related to Wind. Talia, after all, she is the disciple of Happy Windman, but in the background setting, Talia does not know any wind magic. She only knows how to control gravel. Wheel Mother's ultimate move is acceleration, but it is still a bit far-fetched. Looking at the two powers of Fanfic, Qin Ren was entangled for a while. Wind and sea, wind, rain, thunder and lightning. Wait a minute, thunder, although set, as the Lord of Strength, has the description of mastering the power of thunder, Qin Ren is not going to do it exactly the same as Egyptian mythology. It's okay to be related. In that case, let's follow Zerat's example and use Zerat as the appearance. With inspiration, Qin Ren also immediately prepared to start manufacturing, but a new problem came. What equipment should be used as the carrier of this new wind god? The remaining equipment is the Lich Ring, portable launcher, ghost armor, scorching angel, and severed greaves. It's related to wind or thunder. Forget it, just choose the Lich Ring. Qin Ren, who had difficulty choosing, closed his eyes and randomly chose one. His consciousness returned to the yellow sand world. The Millennium Scale emerged again. The next moment, on the trays on both sides of the dark golden Millennium Scale, two hazy soul light balls filled with the sound of sea tides, wind and thunder, and the Lich Ring flew onto the trays on both sides. The position was set at the position where the wind pillar was killed. The mana surged, accompanied by the dark golden flashes on the Millennium Scale. The next moment, accompanied by the surge of wind and thunder, a human figure in energy state emerged. No, to be precise, it is not a humanoid. The whole body is in a blue-green energy state. The body is completely composed of storms and thunder. Storms and thunder are constantly surging, but the upper body is humanoid, while the lower body is similar to a deer, giving the feeling of a centaur. Moreover, on its back, there is a pair of huge wings condensed by wind and thunder. In his hand, he holds a crossblade. Qin Ren was confused. Why is this happening? When condensing the form, he constructed the form of Zerat in his mind. However, he, who has a big imagination, couldn't help but think of something else. It was really just a little thought just now, a little distracted, a little thought about the appearance of the Wheel Mother, a little thought about the form of Fufa and Fugalo, and then, this strange-looking guy was created. It, or she. Facts have proved that sometimes, being distracted will bring bad consequences. Forget it. Although it was an accident, it feels pretty good in a sense. At least the upper body looks pretty. But there is a very important question. Is this guy a man or a woman? Just looking at the upper body, it is a woman. But she has a pair of antlers on her head. Because when Qin Ren's mind was distracted just now, he thought of Fufa's form. In the deer family, generally only males have a pair of horns, and females are hornless. Horns are the second characteristic of male deer, which is the capital of their courtship. Just like the peacock's peacock screen, which is used by male deer for intraspecific competition, those with antlers are all male deer, except reindeer. Among the deer family, only reindeer has horns for both males and females. Thinking in his heart, but Qin Ren did not speak. After the birth of this new god, quicksand and gravel surged on the boundless land of the yellow sand world and flew towards the Lich Ring. The surging yellow sand wrapped up the Lich Ring and wrapped it into a pillar of heaven, and the Lich Ring seemed to be embedded inside it. Moreover, soon after the surging yellow sand wrapped up the Lich Ring, the posture of these quicksands changed, from quicksand and gravel to rolling wind and thunder. This huge pillar of heaven was completely condensed by wind and thunder, and it had its own characteristics. Just like the frozen earth pillar covered with frost, the dark and evil demon pillar, and the sun disk pillar wrapped with flames. Faintly, an outline emerged on the giant pillar, and this new god also opened his eyes. At the same time, The voice of Qin Ren sounded. Your name is Natural Scourge. Real name, Natural Scourge. Race, Elemental Elf. Bloodline, none. Attributes, all attributes G, not included in skill bonus. Attributes and skills are linked to the attributes of the Lich Ring. 1. Wind and Thunder. Natural Scourge, a powerful energy body fused by the Millennium Scale and the Lich Ring. Its growth relies on the Lich Ring. 2. Pseudo-Pillar. Middle. Pillar of Wind and Thunder. 3. Pseudo-God of Wind and Thunder. The only passive skill is Wind and Thunder body. The lightning and wind damage received from G and other attacks will be absorbed, and the player is immune to physical attacks. The Wind and Thunder attribute skills gain a 500% effect increase, and the Water attribute skills gain a 200% effect increase. The only passive skill is Storm Surge. When attacking a target, it will apply a lightning chain to the target and slow down the target. The lightning chain will bounce to the surrounding enemies until the energy is exhausted. The only active skill is War Thunder. Release thunder attacks on a large scale to attack the target, and grant Wind and Thunder shelter to all friendly forces in the range. Wind and Thunder shelter can provide them with a shield and speed up, and enemies approaching will be damaged. The only active skill is Eye of the Storm. Attack the target and remove the target's camouflage and stealth status. Chapter 340. It is impossible to give a chance. Well, this has directly become a god of war. Qin Ren looked at the new god, Scourge, which he had accidentally created because of his absent-mindedness, and his heart was full of complaints. When creating something like this, inspiration might suddenly come from somewhere, and this Scourge, although the appearance is different from what he had initially expected, the overall feeling seems to be better than he had initially thought. It is similar to the forms of Frozen Earth, Purgatory, and 32, but also different. The true body of 32 is a multi-headed black snake, the body of Purgatory is a golden dragon burning with flames, and the body of Frozen Earth is a werewolf. This half-human, half-deer man holding a crossblade in the elemental energy state is the new god, Scourge. Storms, thunder and tsunamis are the source of the name. What Qin Ren thought of was Scourge. However, after her birth, war appeared in her skills. War is not an exaggeration to call it the main theme of human civilization. The highest form of struggle between political groups, tribes, and alliances is the most violent means of resolving disputes and one of the ways to solve problems in nature. Until now, although it is usually considered a method used by primitive societies due to the disappearance of life, it is not recognized in modern human society. However, this is just a joke. Until now, the war has never stopped. Supreme Will. After being born, she bent her body and bowed respectfully. The 4 deer hooves condensed by storms and thunders rose and fell slightly, stirring up the quicksand and gravel, and the Qin people just casually sent away 2 sentences. Why? Because someone came. Astroth? ? He actually appeared? Astroth carefully came out of the long river of time. Since the last time he met Qin people, he has traveled through more than a dozen timelines. This time, he also entered a new timeline. This timeline Astroth tried to explore the current situation of this timeline very cautiously. For this reason, he naturally chose to confirm his companions who were also 72 pillars of demon gods first, and confirm the current situation of other demon gods who did not obey. After checking many timelines, he found that the common point of these timelines is that among the 72 demon gods, the demon gods who did not descend would disappear more or less. Then, another key thing is that a certain area was destroyed on a large scale. In one timeline, he found that both Hual and Antlion disappeared, and then a certain area was destroyed on a large scale, but he didn't know who the murderer was. Later, in another timeline, he found that Hual, Dantlion, and Momo disappeared, and the whole of Britain was massacred, but he still didn't know why. He observed those timelines for a while, and nothing suspicious happened afterwards. After a series of investigations and speculations, he made a deduction. The murderer is a being who has the ability to travel through time like him. It is very likely that it is the unknown being he saw in the long river of time last time. He needs to act cautiously and find out the other party's identity. In fact, he would rather hide far away, but the timeline is bound by some powerful force, and he can't escape even if he wants to. I hope it's not aimed at me, Ashrath thought with a fluke mentality, but soon after, he discovered a situation. That was a young man with a European face and a suit. He had a handsome face but a stern expression, which was a bit indifferent. He had black hair and fair skin, and wore a dark gray jacket. In an instant, Ashrath found the corresponding person from his memory. The God Killer, Drake, the Black Prince of Britain, the God Killer who killed the Thunder Angel Ramiel. In fact, he had seen many different God Killers in various timelines. But in the various timelines he traveled through during this period, the God Killers were basically these few people. He also knew what kind of existence the God Killers were. As a disobedient god, he would be regarded as prey by these God Killers. Although he had not actually fought, he still knew how strong the other party was. The other party had the speed of lightning, although not as fast as Izir, but still very fast. However, it was impossible to have any effect on him. With the ability to travel through time, he could avoid all enemies. However, when he had this idea and was about to retreat, he suddenly heard a sentence. Your power will not be usable. In an instant, he felt something was wrong. A force penetrated into his body, like a chain, binding the power he possessed. Just like other demons, he quickly realized that this power belonged to the prophetic power of Hual. Who are you? How could Ashrath surrender? Although he didn't know how Drake possessed Hual's power, he knew without thinking that there must be a conspiracy. And it was a conspiracy against him. After making up his mind to desperately escape and never approach these timelines again after success, Ashrath activated the demon transformation. His body instantly changed from human form to a pitch-black demon that exuded a foul smell of poisonous gas, and the human form was greatly distorted. He wanted to resist, but Qin Ren didn't give him a chance to speak and directly launched a killing move. During this period of time, every demon he dealt with would explode, and Qin Ren had had enough. He didn't want to come again. One by one, the explosion was as easy as drinking water. The end of the black tide, the power obtained from Apep was activated, and a black wave full of chaos came instantly. Whether it was light or everything else, it was swallowed up by darkness in an instant. The dark wave instantly swallowed up Ashrath's body. Fear, a strong sense of fear spread in his heart, causing Ashrath's resistance to stagnate slightly. Arcane pulse, the surging arcane energy bombarded his body like thunder. Frenzy taunting. Ashrath, who was severely injured and close to death, was taunted again after being silenced and frightened. The strong desire to attack made him change his decision to escape to launching an attack in an instant. But this time, he couldn't withstand the fourth attack. A lightning-like stream of mana penetrated his body and tore his body apart. The next moment, a huge crack appeared next to Ashrath's body, which was not yet dead. His body was instantly sucked into it. Then, two giant hands condensed by quicksand closed together the moment he appeared in the yellow sand world, and directly smashed his body into powder. In the yellow sand world, there was another demon god's soul, and in the skill column, there is also a new skill that the Qin people have always dreamed of. Chapter 341 Time Wanderer. Time Wanderer, ability to distort time, thus opening time rifts and time travel. Power obtained from Ashrath. Looking at this power, Qin Ren couldn't help but think of Jilin, the old man of time. In the background story, Jilin drifted between the past, present, and future, bending and distorting the time around him, repeatedly reversing time, and preventing the destruction of his homeland. After looking at the skills, Qin Ren immediately browsed through Ashrath's memory. It would have been better if he hadn't read it. After reading Ashrath's memory, Qin Ren was shocked. What Ashrath had experienced could be written into more than a dozen sequential. If it were a TV series, it would take tens of thousands of episodes to finish. This Ashrath is completely a scholar. He has mastered all kinds of knowledge in physics, chemistry, astronomy, and mathematical logic. But these are not the most important. The most important thing is his knowledge of time and space. Time has countless branches, and timelines are entangled with each other. There is no independent timeline. The theory of parallel worlds is not uncommon. There are countless modern works that use the theory of parallel worlds at every turn. It can be said that it has become a commonplace, and with Ashrath's memory, he who has traveled through countless timelines, does not dare to say that he has understood time. In Ashroth's senses, the vast long river of time that Qin Ren had seen was just a small part of it. Timelines will continue to be created and will collapse without warning. In Ashroth's memory, he often saw the birth of various new timelines and the destruction of old timelines for unknown reasons. Time travel is unique. People with the power of time will affect themselves on other timelines. For example, a person who has the ability to perceive the past and future on a certain timeline can also perceive the past and future on this timeline. If a person can perceive himself on other timelines, then another self on other timelines can also sense him, and even have time-related abilities. And people who can travel through the past and the future will become a trinity. The past, present, and future, the trinity, will become the only one from now on. How to say it? If you want to kill another person who can travel through time by traveling through time, it is impossible, because after the trinity, it will be separated from the timeline. The influence he caused still exists, but no matter which time point you travel to, what you can find at most is his projection, not him. If you kill his projection, it will not have any impact on the time traveler as the original body. If this person can not only travel through the past and future of a timeline, but also travel to other timelines, such as Ashroth, the Ashroth on other timelines will also become a projection. The real Ashroth is the one who becomes the trinity. If the projection touches the long river of time, it will disappear, and then the real Ashroth will know what happened. Ashroth is not perfect. He can travel through timelines and the past and future, but he does not have the ability to directly predict the future and perceive the past. Don't try to enter other time nests. The time nest is the home of other beings who can have time-related powers. In other words, it is a timeline that is occupied by them and developed into their own home, with absolute advantages. Ashroth also has his own time nest, but unfortunately, beings who can travel through time do not have additional strength. They will not become stronger because they become the trinity. They are just freed from time, no longer restricted by time, and will not die because of the killing of their past and future selves. Simply put, before possessing the power of time travel, the past, present, and future are like a fruit tree. When the trunk representing the past breaks, the present and future, which are branches and leaves, will fall off. After possessing the power of time, it is no longer a tree, but a ripe and fallen fruit from the tree. No matter what damage the fruit tree suffers, it can no longer affect him. In addition, another piece of information in Ashroth's memory made Qin Ren think, is the timeline blocked by some powerful force? Is the timeline blocked? Without hesitation, Qin Ren used the power of the Time Wanderer to distort time, tear open the time rift, and enter the long river of time. It was different from the feeling when using Ike's time and space fracture skill before. It was no longer involuntarily going back in time, but freely entering the long river of time. The illusory, huge, and boundless long river of time. No, this vastness, perhaps it should be called the sea of time? Countless timelines surging with the power of time are entangled and swaying with each other, and new timelines are constantly being derived and constantly disappearing. This feeling is really wonderful. Qin Ren couldn't help but sigh. No wonder Ashroth is addicted to wandering in the long river of time and wandering in various timelines. This feeling of wandering in time is too cool. Unfortunately, he did not experience the sense of transcendence from the constraints of time. There is no trace of him in other timelines. He is the only one. Moreover, he himself is a trinity. This situation made Qin Ren a little confused. Is it because of Ike's time and space breaking skills, or because he himself does not belong to this world? He is originally a time and space traveler. Forget it. There is no opportunity. If you can't figure it out for a while, don't waste time thinking hard. Qin Ren turned his attention to the complex river where countless timelines are entangled and constantly born and destroyed. A problem has arisen. The situation in Ashroth's memory where the timeline was blocked does not exist at all. He didn't feel that there was any force blocking the timeline. Or rather, the force that blocked the timeline just disappeared. Just disappeared? Why? Qin Ren frowned. Could it be related to himself? From the various traces that appeared before, Qin Ren had already vaguely sensed that there was a mastermind behind the scenes who was pushing his growth. Could it be related to this mastermind? He shook his head and decided not to get to the bottom of things he shouldn't know. Instead of thinking about this, he might as well think about another thing. That is the problem that Astroth is also very distressed about. Astroth can travel through time and through timelines, but he cannot perceive what happened in this timeline outside the timeline. He needs the power to predict the past and the future. Voshk, the demon Voshk, the third pillar of the demon, the blind Voshk, the demon who declares the future. Chapter 342. Since you are an evil god, just let yourself go. Qin Ren used the power of the Time Wanderer to travel to a timeline he had been in before, the timeline of the massacre of Britain. Previously, Qin Ren used Ike's time and space rupture to get the yellow sand gold coins and vouchers for free, which created a timeline. Before, he thought that he could get it for free by going back to 4 seconds ago through the time and space rupture. That is, no one died. But now, he understands. He is going back in time, not going back in time, and the dead are completely dead. He killed countless people, and under the influence of his actions, a new timeline was created. And he actually went back in time and jumped back to the original timeline from the new timeline. The countless soul light balls in the yellow sand world are real. He got them by killing countless people. He is a thorough evil god and a thorough demon god. There is no doubt. In this timeline, Drake did not die, and Izir, Fufa, and Fugalo were not killed by him. Even with Astroth's memory, Qin Ren did not have a navigation, and he had no idea which timeline contained Voshk. Therefore, the Qin people still planned to do business first. Brush the voucher, brush the gold coins, find the power corresponding to other pillars, and put up the other pillars. This is the most important thing. Now he has Purgatory, 32, Frozen Earth, and Natural Disaster. Or Purgatory, the End, Frozen Earth, and Natural Disaster. Why do I feel that the names I gave are all violent winds and evil winds? Forget it. In addition to 32, they correspond to the sun god Ra of the first pillar, the underworld god Osiris of the sixth pillar, and the wind god Shu of the second pillar. The rest are 345 and 789, rain, earth, sky, live magic, desert, and tomb. Speaking of it, war should be Set's power, but here, it is the natural disaster corresponding to the wind god Shu that he got. As for rain, it is relatively rare, and it can be extended to water. Then find a water god or something like that. Marquis Volbend has the power of the wind master and rain master in Korean mythology. As for the earth, there are many earth mothers in the world of the god Slayer, and they are relatively easy to find. If that doesn't work, he still has the soul of Drake from another timeline. The powers of Behemoth and Minotaur should be enough. The sky is very simple. Find some disobedient gods related to birds, the sun, and thunder, and you can basically find the sky god. Drake has the power of the thunder angel Remiel, so it can be used. The American god Slayer Ann Charlton also has a god power related to the night sky. It's a pity that he used Horus Soul Light Ball to make frozen soil. Otherwise, he could keep it. After all, the relationship between the eagle and the sky needs no further explanation. Horus is also called the sky god in some small places. Live magic is even simpler. The earth mothers are mostly related to life. It's right to find the demon god for magic. What's more, Isis, from Astroth's memory, the Qin people have confirmed that Isis is in the Vatican. Is there anyone more suitable than Isis herself? Desert needs to think about it carefully. In his memory, it seems that Set is the only god with desert-related powers, but Set has other powers, which can be started from characteristics such as storm, strength, desert, war, and foreign countries. By the way, the power of the god of war usurped by Kusan-Agi Godu, the 10 incarnations, and the intention of war, the Qin people have not yet made a thorough decision. Although the natural disaster revealed the image of war, the Qin people have not yet decided to make her the god of war in the creation myth. In addition, he remembered that the Persian god of war usurped by Kusan-Agi Godu had a phoenix among the 10 incarnations. Can the phoenix be used as the material for the sky god? In addition, he remembered that this god of war also fought with another disobedient god, who was the first Baal among the 72 demons, in the foreign setting of the god's lair. This Baal is also Hercules and Zeus. Needless to say, Zeus is familiar with the title of Father of Heaven. The last one is the patron saint of mausoleums, houses, and the dead. From the concept of house, the Minotaur owned by Drake, building the Great Labyrinth should also be considered a house, right? Maybe it can be used? There are many Hades. Marquis Valbend has the Black Dragon of the Underworld, Lady Aisha has the power of the Queen of the Underworld, and so on. Therefore, the next plan is to gather the souls representing the relevant powers step by step. The first step is the rain god. Just ask Sebek if he has made a decision. If it still doesn't agree, then knock him out. Rain. Wait a minute, how about leaving the souls of the two demon gods, Fgaro and Fenhai and Feni-Ulidian? They should be able to be used. Qin Ren couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. But, wait a minute, although it was already clear before that repeatedly killing the same person in different timelines would not have any evidence, but, the soul light ball seems to be able to come again. Sorry, Fgaro, I'm here again. Bore your brains again. Qin Ren muttered in his heart. Egypt, southern Cairo, ruins of Thebes, by the river, in the ruins of the dilapidated temple. An old white crocodile stood, holding an ancient scepter in his right hand with a golden bracelet, and he was quietly looking at the desolate land. The words of the Lord of Power still lingered in his heart. Is this world real? How small is he? He already has such power, but the Lord of Power who is more powerful than him is still small? At this point, he has been able to confirm that the one who showed the power of Ra and had an aura very similar to Ra is not the one the Lord of Power said. But they also don't belong here. This is Sebek's conclusion. At this time, he heard the voice again. Sebek, have you made a decision? As the voice sounded, Sebek found a flash of lightning flashing in front of his eyes, accompanied by the surge of quicksand, condensed into a human shape. Thunder, Lord of Power? Sebek was a little stunned. He could feel that the other party's power had grown a lot compared to what he had shown before. However, such power can only destroy a city. Even worse than Horus. Not to mention that he is more powerful than Horus and the Lord of Power who can make the desert cover the whole of Egypt in an instant. Hearing this, Sebek thought for a while, then shook his head, and the golden ring on the side of his head swayed slightly. You are not the one I am looking for. He chose to refuse. What a pity. The one who spoke was Qin Ren. To be honest, he had wanted to make Sebek one of his subordinates before. But now, it is better to make one by himself than to recruit a new subordinate. He has decided to forge a new myth by himself. So foreign gods are naturally not needed. If Sebek really agreed, he would still be a little difficult to deal with, and he would need to think about how to modify his memory. But now, he is relieved. Since he is not one of us, there is no need to be polite. Qin Ren bared his fangs. Chapter 343, Men Must Face the Present. Sebek was also aware of the hostility of the Qin people. A hint of human understanding appeared on the striped crocodile mouth. Indeed, there is no doubt that I am also a disobedient god, a prey of sufficient weight. The next moment, a cruel smile appeared on his face. But who is the hunter and who is the prey has not yet been decided. Some people say that Sebek lives in the Nile River, and those who want to cross the river must pay respect to him, otherwise Sebek will destroy them. Some people say that Sebek helped Horus defeat the Lord of Power, but was sealed in the Nile River by Horus out of gratitude. Some people say that Sebek was guided by Isis and was reborn. Some people say that Sebek is the reincarnation of an evil god, evil and hateful, destroying the village by the river. These statements are all right, but they are all wrong at the same time. All legends are part of him. The god lurking in the Nile River is him. The evil god who destroyed the village is him. But no matter which legend, there is one thing in common. His power was powerful and terrifying. As the voice fell, Sebek's body swelled instantly. A sacred flame emerged from his chest. A violent storm wrapped around his body. An endless stream of power flowed into his body from the earth. A heart-pounding gray-black liquid overflowed from his crocodile claws. The fire of the sun god Ra, the wind of the air god Shu, the earth of the earth god Jeb, the water of the underworld god Osiris. Sebek possessed a part of the power of the four pillars. He was the most powerful god closest to the four pillars. Even Horus could not match him. As the power of the four gods surged, the originally hunched and old body swelled instantly. In an instant, a sturdy crocodile god with a sense of surging power and tens of meters tall stood on the ground. "Come on, like a real warrior. Let me see your strength." Pale body, sharp claws, thick long tail swinging, uneven scales, under the reflection of golden red flames, emitting cold light, like armor. Sebek's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. After Qin Ren showed his malice, he only had fighting spirit. "I like this character." Sebek's actions made Qin Ren's eyes light up. He thought Sebek would curse first and then fight. Who knew Sebek didn't even curse, but wanted to fight him directly. "But brother, you are a bit tough." Sebek now gives Qin Ren the feeling that he is not inferior to Drake before in terms of strength. That surging fighting will is far more than Drake by hundreds of times. The strength is close to the powerful god of disobedience at the national level. And Qin Ren certainly won't refuse. After all, he came here for this. Although the purpose is not to have a good fight with Sebek, but to kill Sebek and take away his soul. However, it is not impossible to change the method slightly. Eye of Fusion. The mana surged, and Horus' power was activated. And this time, Qin Ren's goal of fusion is ultimate domination. Crocodile Renukton's ultimate move, Greedy Magic Ball, the end of the Black Tide, the burial of the Flame Lung, raging winds, earth, water, fire, and wind. Sebek has the power of the four gods, and he wants to create a similar one. As the six skills merged into one, Qin Ren's body also changed in an instant. What is this? Qin Ren's change made Sebek's pupils shrink, and his vision became solemn in an instant. A trace of black airflow escaped from the opponent, and the danger contained in it even made Sebek think of retreating. The next moment, the equally huge giant god emerged from the black cocoon. Roar! Amidst the roar that shook the earth, Qin Ren's body began to expand rapidly. The surging quicksand and the surging mana intertwined on the surface of the incarnation of will. Pieces of huge blood-black scales grew out of the pores of the body and spread over the huge body that was constantly expanding. The crocodile head was raised, and in the dark vertical pupils that were like the abyss, a ball of fire was burning, as if stirring up strong anger. On the thick crocodile neck, the blood-black scales suddenly flashed a dark blue light. The crocodile head tilted back slightly, and then rushed forward rapidly. In an instant, a dark blue torrent gathered around the Qin man's body and swallowed the earth. Blood-black, a giant crocodile that was tens of meters tall appeared on the ground. The sharp, angular and extremely strong body instantly caught Sebek's eyes. On the huge crocodile mouth, the sharp fangs were wrapped with flames, as if every breath was swallowing and spitting out flames. If Sebek hadn't confirmed that he was here, he would even think that the person opposite was himself. On the pale crocodile head, in the pale golden eyes, a stronger fighting spirit emerged. The Lord of Strength is right. Other worlds exist. Is there anything more convincing than seeing oneself? Dark Tyrant, the only passive, Dark Tyrant, immune to dark attribute damage, earth, wind, fire, death, and water attribute attack damage is halved. The effectiveness of its own dark attribute attack is increased by 500%, and earth, wind, fire, death, and water attribute damage is increased by 200%. The only active, Tyrant Flame, release Tyrant Flame to cause death and fire attribute damage to nearby targets. The more targets hit, the more damage is increased, up to 500%. The only active, Greedy Hunting, release the Greedy Ball to bind the target to the earth, causing earth attribute damage, absorbing the target's power, and restoring itself. The only active, Sandstorm Rush, transform into a sandstorm, rush forward a distance, causing wind and earth attribute damage. The only active one, Domination of the End, the black tide surrounds itself, and the close target is continuously damaged by darkness and chaos attributes. The black tide will continuously reduce the target's magic resistance and armor. Looking at the result after fusing several powers, Qin Ren couldn't help shaking his head in his heart. Although 4 powers were used, the attributes represented by these 4 powers are basically different, and there is no overlap, so there is no superposition. The highest bonus is only the dark attribute. In other words, after the addition of magic power, only the dark attribute has 7.5c, which is still a bit short of Sebek's strength. But it doesn't matter, a man must face it head on. Come on, Sebek. Qin Ren raised his crocodile head, grabbed his right claw in the air, and the surging tyrant flames gathered in his right claw, forming a crescent-shaped double-edged axe, slashing towards Sebek. You are still a little weak. Although Qin Ren's momentum when he transformed was very loud, Sebek soon sensed Qin Ren's strength from the escaping power and went straight up. Chapter 344 Ardis Patrick. Sebek raised his head and roared fiercely. Roar! As Sebek swung his scepter and smashed it hard at Qin Ren, the power of the four gods' spells also surged. Flames surged, the earth trembled, the sticks overflowed, and storms gathered. Endless waves of terror instantly enveloped this area and Qin Ren. In an instant, Qin Ren felt a huge pressure. The surging power formed by the power of the four pillars of magic bombarded. Even if Qin Ren's dark tyrant posture can reduce the 5 attributes of earth, fire, water, wind, and death by half, it can't change the fact that Qin Ren himself is a fragile skin. If he is really hit like this, he will lose a layer of resurrection armor. Without hesitation, he immediately chose to counterattack. There is no doubt that he, in the dark tyrant posture, is no match for the real Sebek. With Sebek's current attack, at most 2 hits will knock out his resurrection armor and the seraph. So, Qin Ren chose another way. Attack instead of defense. Use attack to tear apart the opponent's attack and prevent the opponent's attack from hitting himself. In fact, Qin Ren still had Wheel Mother's spell shield to block the next skill, but unfortunately, this skill can only be used at a critical moment. After all, it takes 10 seconds to cool down once. With a raise of his right hand, the crescent axe condensed by tyrant flame swept through the air, and the scorching hot flame left a twisted trajectory and hit the four gods' magic power. Boom! With a loud bang, the terrifying tyrant flame, just as Qin Ren expected, intertwined with the four gods' magic power and caused a terrible explosion. Even though his tyrant flame was far weaker than the four gods' magic power released by Sebek in terms of strength, as long as it could detonate the four gods' magic power, it would be fine. Moreover, if he grasped it well, he could recover blood after being hit by another move, greedy hunting. For example, now, the release of tyrant flame directly collided with the four gods' magic power. Qin Ren did not use the spell shield to resist the aftermath of the explosion, but endured the aftermath abruptly, and then greedy hunting. The left claw was raised, and the sharp claws covered with black scales grabbed hard. An illusory black sphere emerged from his crocodile claws. At the same time, the ground below Sebek also tore open a crack, and a huge black sphere flew out from the dark crack that looked like a sharp claw and a huge mouth. In the dark giant sphere, endless attraction emerged. When Qin Ren released the tyrant flame, Sebek had already anticipated the explosion, and subconsciously used the power of the curse to protect himself from the impact of the explosion. Although he was not injured, his reaction was slightly delayed, allowing Qin Ren's greedy hunting to hit him. The powerful attraction of the greedy ball imprisoned Sebek's body in place, and the continuous attraction pulled the cursed power in his body and swallowed it into the crack. Qin Ren also felt that his lost power was restored to a large extent as he swallowed Sebek's cursed power. Renewed skills are Q range damage and blood recovery, W stun control, E charge, and ultimate transformation. The first skill of the Dark Tyrant is to deepen the range of damage without blood recovery. The second skill is to imprison and restore blood. The third skill is an unselectable charge, and the fourth skill is also a transformation. However, Renewed does not have armor reduction and magic resistance reduction. With a roar, Qin Ren's body grew larger again. The black tide that was originally only around him spread out instantly, and the pervasive dark storm spread to the surroundings like a storm. The end of the rule. And Sebek, who was imprisoned in place by greedy hunting, was instantly enveloped by the end of the black tide. Whether it was the four gods' magic power wrapped around him or his pale body, they were constantly torn apart by the end of the black tide. Although Sebek has a powerful magic power that is close to the anti-country level, he is not at the anti-country level after all. and Qin Ren's Dark Tyrant incarnation has a 500% bonus to the Dark attribute. Tyrant Flame and Greedy Hunting have very low strength, but the ultimate move is different. The end of the Black Tide can continuously inflict damage to the target and continuously reduce magic resistance and armor. Since your blade is not sharp enough, then remove the enemy's armor, peel off the enemy's skin, and directly stab the blunt knife into the opponent's flesh and blood. The damage will continue to deepen. Exciting, ha ha ha. Sebek laughed wildly and roared. He swung the flooding scepter in his hand vigorously, and the surging Four Gods magic power burst out, tearing and shattering the greedy magic ball that imprisoned his body. The phantom of the magic ball in Qin Ren's left claw also shattered, and the ball body collapsed inch by inch. However, when he struggled to escape, the black tide formed by the end of the rule had already torn most of the white scales on his body, and the surging Four Gods magic power was also shattered by the black tide. In a short time, Sebek's body has become broken. Sandstorm advances. A gleam of light flashed in Qin Ren's eyes, and his whole body disintegrated and turned into a sandstorm, sweeping over Sebek with the black tide. Because his armor and magic resistance were weakened, the damage caused by the dark black tide was already severe enough, and coupled with the earth and wind damage brought by the sandstorm, Sebek was severely injured. In an instant, countless wounds were added to his already tattered body, but he did not show any idea of giving up the fight. On the contrary, although his body was severely injured and weak, the fighting spirit in his eyes became more intense. Fuck, I thought you were a wise man before, but in the end you're still a reckless man. You are a qualified warrior. Come on, keep fighting. Sebek's pale and tattered crocodile mouth opened, and he let out a weak but high roar, and then the Four Gods spell power enveloped his body. At this moment, Qin Ren felt the terrifying power. Without any hesitation, Qin Ren immediately pulled back and released the spell shield skill. Almost at the same time, Sebek's body was covered with the power of the Four Gods and crashed towards him. Destroy the heavens and the earth. Boom! Exclamation mark. Sebek's body crashed into Qin Ren not far away, exerting a power far beyond the explosion of an atomic bomb. The terrifying shockwave spread hundreds of kilometers along with the energy explosion. The Nile River nearby was directly cut off in this terrifying explosion, and the water in a section of the river basin was instantly evaporated. The affected area, even Cairo, 700 kilometers away, was covered by the aftermath of the shock wave. In an instant, millions of people died directly, and at the center of the explosion, Qin Ren stood there intact. The dying Sebek looked at the unharmed Qin man in front of him with some disbelief. Then, he seemed to understand something, and a hint of understanding appeared on the crocodile's face. So that's how it is. It was just to fulfill my wish. Thank you, unknown strong man. After saying this, Sebek's body turned into particles of soul light, which continued to dissipate from the opponent's corpse, like fireflies, and quickly disappeared into the empty air. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345 Anubis. Listening to Sebek's last words, Qin Ren just silently waited for the other party's body to dissipate. In a sense, Sebek was not wrong. He was indeed stronger than Sebek. The main body, the power of the incarnation of will, was all provided by Qin Ren's main body. When the spell shield took effect and completely blocked Sebek's attack, Qin Ren's main body also felt that the power was being extracted. The spell shield can block any skill. But how is the skill blocked? Although it seems that this shield has no consumption for Qin Ren's incarnation of will, and it also restores a lot of mana of the incarnation of will. But in fact, it is impossible to have no consumption. This is reality, not a game. The spell shield that resists Sebek's power consumes the power of his main body. The restored mana is also the power drawn from the main body. The various skills he has now are just different forms of using power. But in the final analysis, the energy for any skill he uses comes from the main body. Although he admired Sebek's character and had the idea of not absorbing Sebek's soul, It was obvious that the yellow sand world had no mercy on Sebek. A huge soul light ball wrapped with the power of the 4 pillars appeared in the yellow sand space, and Qin Ren's skill bar also added a power skill, Elemental Ruler, reduced the damage received from the fire, earth, water, and wind attribute forces, and at the same time caused the surrounding fire, earth, water, and wind attribute forces to riot. This power, no wonder he felt that the attack damage of Tyrant Flame was pitifully low just now, and it was so easy to use Tyrant Flame to detonate the opponent's power. Sebek, who has this power, can exert destructive power far beyond his original power. The destructive power can be increased by more than 200%. Of course, this power is also a double-edged sword. Through the form of riot, the attribute power is greatly activated, which greatly enhances his destructive power, but because of this, he loses the ability to finally control the attribute power. However, it was not just him who had this problem. After Sebek activated his power, if other people used the power of fire, earth, water and wind, they would also be disturbed by Sebek's power and become difficult to control. It could be considered an aura skill. However, just as Qin Ren sorted out the spoils and prepared to browse Sebek's memory to find more accurate information about Isis, a dull voice like the netherworld suddenly sounded. "Evil God, you will pay the price for Sebek's death." The anger and hatred contained in the words were chilling. Without any pause, a heart-pounding force instantly spread from a distance, and the ground under Qin Ren's feet, which had just been completely destroyed by Sebek's dying blow, was instantly covered with a chilling dead land. The netherworld. It was as if he had entered the underworld with a gloomy and dead feeling. The next moment, Qin Ren saw a humanoid creature with a pitch-black jackal head coming from a distance, holding a scepter similar to Sebek. As he walked step by step, a noisy voice like the whispers of the dead floated in Qin Ren's ears. Moreover, without giving him any room to speak, he launched an attack directly. Buzz, buzz. Amid the strange sound, the ground quickly cracked, and a large amount of black dust gushed out from the dead soil. Then, countless corpses wrapped in rags and bandages drilled out of the earth and rushed towards him at a very fast speed. Doghead, Hades, Mummy, Anubis. Qin Ren's eyes flashed with cold light, and at the moment he made a judgment on the other party's identity. The group of mummies with unusually light bodies rushed towards him. At the same time, the mummies with powerful strength tore through the earth and drilled out. At the moment they drilled out, they launched different attacks. Countless ancient, modern, and contemporary spells and magic formed a dense barrage, shooting at him overwhelmingly. Moreover, in the opponent's hand, the rich power of the Hades mantra gathered together, as if it had broken through some kind of boundary, and reached an astonishing intensity in an instant, even causing the power other than the death attribute to be constantly eliminated. In this expanding area, there is only death, a powerful ability that is completely different from Sebek but has something in common. Expel other forces, let the power of death attribute occupy this area, enhance one's own power, and weaken the power of others. Under the blessing of this environment, Qin Ren could feel that Anubis was as powerful as Sebek. In Egyptian mythology, Anubis was the king of the underworld before Osiris. After Osiris was resurrected by Isis, Anubis entrusted the position of Hades to Osiris. Dispel the power other than the death attribute? Qin Ren smiled, and then a dark blue crown appeared on his head, the crown of frozen earth. The Eye of Fusion. Eye-shaped lines appeared on Qin Ren's body. The next moment, Qin Ren's body began to expand and change. The body that was materialized by the Millennium Key quickly became virtual, and hair grew from Qin Ren's body. The crown of frozen soil is undoubtedly the symbol of frozen soil, the Hades he created with his own hands. At present, in this area created by Anubis, the power other than the death attribute is constantly reduced, and the power of the death attribute is increased. With such a bonus, there is no doubt that if Qin Ren wants to choose an incarnation, he will naturally choose an incarnation with a death attribute bonus. The Eye of Fusion can fuse mythical power, can fuse the skills of Zerat, can fuse the skills of Renukton. Why can't it fuse the gods he created? Roar! In Anubis' eyes, the evil god turned into a huge god covered with frosty blue fur, like a giant wolf standing up, and suddenly roared to the sky. Inexplicably, he felt a breath that was extremely similar to his own. Qin Ren, who had transformed into the king of the frozen earth, instantly felt the endless supply of power from the surrounding environment, amplifying his death attribute. And, frozen earth itself has the effect of additionally improving all attributes in the frost and netherworld environment. In the current situation, his attributes have been improved again. And, just like Anubis, frozen earth can actively transform the surrounding environment into netherworld frozen earth. Netherworld frozen earth, with the surge of mana, wisps of deadly and cold air emanated from Qin Ren's body. Qin Ren, who had transformed into the king of the frozen earth, instantly had layers of frost spread under his feet. The earth was freezing. Chapter 346, Fierce Battle. Incarnation of God. Frozen earth. Pluto, only passive. Netherworld frozen earth, only passive. Power of Pluto, only active. Coffin of the wrongly dead, only active. Frozen earth ghost, a skill set that is no different from frozen earth. Netherworld frozen earth, with the surge of mana, wisps of deadly and cold air emanated from Qin Ren's body. Qin Ren, who had transformed into the frozen earth Pluto, instantly had layers of frost spread out under his feet. The ground was frozen. The surging cold air directly froze the countless barrages of the mummy magicians summoned by Anubis, and the cold that continued to expand and spread outward also froze those mummy magicians directly. Crackling, accompanied by a series of crisp cracking sounds, the tens of thousands of mummy magicians and warriors summoned by Anubis directly shattered. Pieces of frozen corpses broke apart and scattered. Evil God, you angered me. Anubis's jackal head revealed human anger. The frozen earth Hades incarnated by Qin Ren had countless similarities with his existence. A poor imitation, a false pseudo-god. Duat. Anubis roared in anger. Duat is the name of the underworld in ancient Egyptian mythology. The land that gradually became dead silent after his appearance was transforming into Duat's environment. But now, after Qin Ren used the nether frozen earth skill, this environment gradually lost control. His power was to summon a part of Duat and let Duat descend. Anubis could clearly sense that the domain of Duat he summoned was being occupied as the frost spread. Feeling this, he immediately took action and tried to expel the nether frozen earth that occupied Duat. This seemingly ambiguous environment was very similar to Duat in a sense, but Anubis knew very well that this evil god, who had never seen him before and had some strange connection with him, was powerful. He had to kill this evil god. In his hands, the power of Hades gathered into a giant beast of death. The beast rushed towards Qin Ren without hesitation, but how could Qin Ren sit there and wait for death? The cold waves, like countless ice particles, rushed towards the attack released by Anubis with the power of Hades. Moreover, when the cold waves were surging, a raging storm was formed. Frost storm. The storm instantly wrapped the giant beast condensed by the power of Hades and instantly froze it to pieces. Under the double bonus, Qin Ren's current strength has grown to the strength that can face Anubis head-on. No one will understand how powerful Duat is. Anubis roared, and in an instant, Qin Ren deeply felt that Anubis's power had increased again. Moreover, the source of growth comes from the land that was eroded by the power of the underworld and gradually transformed into a small Duat. After being destroyed by Sebek's explosive attack, countless creatures died, providing a lot of souls for this land. This is also the reason why Anubis can transform it into a small Duat. Anubis is extracting power from this small Duat, extracting power and strengthening himself. Anubis's calm movements. If Qin Ren had not transformed into the frozen earth Hades and could directly control these areas, he would not even notice it. He naturally could not follow Anubis's wishes. In an instant, the palpitating frost breath continued to spread, constantly eroding and assimilating this small Duat, turning it into the nether frozen earth. Moreover, unlike before, when he transformed into the frozen earth Hades, Qin Ren had a unique feeling. A large amount of frost blew storms, like the most gentle water flow and the most terrifying frost, instantly imprisoned the mummified corpses that Anubis summoned continuously, crushed them. With the will of Qin Ren, the large amount of frost blue mist instantly turned into ice blades, ice claws, and ice cones, carrying the gradually growing momentum of the nether frozen earth. and pressed towards Anubis. The huge pressure made Anubis exclaim in surprise. Anubis naturally did not dare to take it hard, and he naturally felt how much threat the powerful force posed to him. However, just as he tried to do something to stop the evil consequences of the continuous disappearance of his life force, his body was instantly wrapped in a large amount of frost and cold mist, and the frost blue light continued to emanate through the mist, but it became dimmer and dimmer. What happened? Anubis was a little confused, but the next moment, when the power in his body was rapidly lost, he understood. The other party had already noticed that he was strengthening and repairing himself by devouring the power of Hades in the earth. The next moment, Anubis raised the scepter of death in his hand, and the giant staff condensed by the power of Hades smashed towards Qin Ren's head with force. Qin Ren immediately attacked. With a wave of his hand, the frost blue mist that had not yet dissipated quickly condensed and formed an ice crystal staff. The top of the ice staff was extremely hard, like an axe blade. Qin Ren swung the axe staff and hit the death god's scepter hard. Crack! The deadly power of the Hades god's spell collided with the frozen earth power transformed by Qin Ren's magic power, producing a terrifying explosion. The huge impact caused by the collision of the frozen earth frost and the Hades god's spell power spread nearly 100 kilometers. However, because of Sebek's terrifying self-explosion before, the living things here have become very few, even close to zero. The frost spread over half of the land. The land that had experienced an impact before finally couldn't support it and began to crack piece by piece. A large amount of ground was directly turned into fragments, pulling out a huge gap. But now, even this trend is still spreading outward. Seeing this situation, the enemy is abnormal, but the Qin people here are very friendly. This is exactly what the Qin people want. The Qin people even deliberately swayed the nether frozen earth. After the strong impact of Sebek and the second attack that the Qin people deliberately targeted, the entire earth has begun to collapse. The earth cracked inch by inch, and the mummies that were about to be drilled out were frozen by frost and shattered into ice slag. The scene of Duat, which was invaded and transformed by Anubis, was gradually reduced. The high-temperature molten lava lake produced by the explosion quickly dried up, revealing a surface full of cracks. And with this place as the center, the damaged points are constantly spreading around. Seeing this situation, Anubis can also feel that his growing power is constantly decreasing. He is getting weaker, or in other words, he is recovering his original strength. Without any hesitation, Anubis launched an attack again, and this time, he used his rarely used power. Raising his right hand and aiming at the heart of the Qin people, Anubis stretched out his hand and squeezed it hard. Chapter 347 Put on your hat. We can't let this evil god continue to erode and destroy the Duat domain. Few of the opponents he met in the past could realize that the Duat domain he summoned was his core. His powers were all based on the Duat domain. The Duat domain would increase each of his powers. Anubis, knowing his own weaknesses, would try to hide the importance of the Duat domain. But why did this evil god's first action destroy the Duat domain? Why was he able to quickly realize this? But no matter what, Anubis couldn't let the other party continue to destroy the Duat domain. With a wave of his right hand, countless dark shadows emerged from the scepter in his hand, speeding up and rushing towards the Qin people. As countless fierce ghosts flew out of the scepter, the entire Duat domain also surged with overflowing netherworld curse power, attached to the ghosts, and the strength of those countless ghosts instantly increased by a large margin. And, without any hesitation, these ghosts rushed directly towards Qin Ren, carrying huge energy and attacking fiercely. Fuck, self-destruction again? Qin Ren could clearly feel that the power in the bodies of countless ghosts was extremely unstable. Sebek had a big wave before, and this time Anubis came with a group of self-destructing ghosts. Do all of you Egyptian gods like to self-destruct so much? Qin Ren was slightly speechless. Although he, the incarnation of the frozen earth Hades, can be immune to a certain degree of death attribute damage, the strength of these ghosts' self-destruction cannot cause him any damage, but it is also annoying to be messed around with by others with self-destruction. However, the skills possessed by the frozen earth Hades made Qin Ren not afraid of any attacks from servants. Frozen earth ghosts. Mana surged, and countless gray-blue powers turned into breath and gushed out from Qin Ren's wolf kiss, hitting the self-destructing ghosts released by Anubis head-on. However, these self-destructing ghosts did not explode according to Anubis's will. At the moment when he was enveloped by the gray-blue power, Anubis suddenly discovered that the undead spirits that were originally controlled by him suddenly lost control at this moment. The hundreds of ghosts used for self-explosion were completely eroded by the power of the Qin people. Give it for nothing. Using the skill of the Pluto's frozen earth, the self-explosive ghosts released by Anubis were transformed into frozen earth ghosts and controlled. Even if they could not control and slap the opponent, they could prevent these self-explosive ghosts from attacking. However, it is obvious that after he released his power to erode the Duat domain, eroded the underworld Duat into the frozen underworld, and gave himself a greater bonus and reduced the bonus obtained by Anubis, his power was only slightly lower than Anubis, and the Qin people did not choose to completely control these frozen earth ghosts that were eroded and transformed by his power. On the contrary, he only snatched and controlled a small part, leaving the control of most of the frozen earth ghosts to Anubis. Why? Because he can be immune to the damage of the death attribute and reduce 50% of the ice attribute damage. And what about Anubis? It is possible that the opponent has the power of the god of death or even the power of Hades. The death attribute cannot cause harm to the opponent, but what about the ice attribute? Egypt does not even have any legends of gods related to winter. Anubis should not have the power of resistance to ice attributes. If we talk about resistance, then, against gods related to death, attributes such as fire, light, life, and holiness are the best. But the Qin people will not forget the legend of Anubis, a world-famous god. The legend of Anubis has undergone several changes. In the first version, Anubis is the son of the sun god Ra. He is the son of the sun. This is also the earliest mythological version of Anubis. If Anubis is affected by this legend and has resistance to the attributes of the sun, light, fire, and holiness, then the attacks of these attributes will be reduced. In the second version, Anubis is the son of Set, the lord of strength, the god of desert and war, and Nephthys, the goddess of funerals. If it is this version, then Anubis should have resistance or powers related to Set and Nephthys. The third version is that Anubis is the son of Osiris and Nephthys, that is, the son of the so-called Old Owl next door. This statement was originally made by an ancient Greek named Plutarch. Just like the various strange plays prevalent in ancient Greece, this person likes to write all kinds of small things and write about the details of the lives of some great people. Anubis was born after Set was cheated on by Osiris, and this version was made by him. The status of most mythological characters in the world has undergone several changes. Just like Osiris was also the brother of Ra at the beginning, just like the status of Jeb, the god of the earth, and Nut, the goddess of the sky, but later, Osiris became the sons of Jeb and Nut. Because there are different versions, Anubis may have different powers, but there is definitely no power of ice attribute. The Qin people chose to transform into the frozen land Hades for this reason. Based on the several frozen land ghosts that he concentrated on controlling, the Qin people directly detonated the frozen land ghosts. Don't you want to play self-destruction? Today I'll give you a cool one. Because Anubis noticed that the self-destructing ghost was infected and controlled, his first thought was that the other party was trying to contain the explosion, but he never expected that the Qin people's purpose was just to add an ice attribute to the self-destructing ghost. The frozen earth ghosts filled with unstable power formed a chain explosion after several of them were detonated. Suddenly, the bodies of hundreds of frozen earth ghosts made a sound of being overwhelmed, and began to crack and collapse inch by inch, and then boom, a huge gray-blue mushroom cloud rose into the sky, and the power of death and ice attributes spread instantly, covering a range of nearly 100 kilometers. Rumble, accompanied by a huge sound, the cold chilling dead silence enveloped the affected area. This heart-pounding cold air full of death breath, just bathing in this cold air, the life of ordinary people will stop moving, and the body will be completely frozen. After such an attack, Qin people, who turned into the king of frozen earth, relied on passive damage reduction and long-prepared active defense to support it. But Anubis, who had no relevant resistance at all, also suffered huge damage. However, this attack could not kill Anubis directly. Anubis, angry at the attack, swung the scepter in his hand vigorously and smashed it towards Qin Ren. "Evil god, you will pay the price. Can't you change your lines?" After a long time, there were only these two sentences. Seeing Anubis waving his long staff to form a surging Hades spell power, Qin Ren couldn't help but complain in his heart. At the same time, his wolf claws tore hard, and the gray-blue sharp claws condensed and formed, and went to meet the attack. However, when the two were fighting, Qin Ren suddenly felt something was wrong. Chapter 348 Marquis Vauban. The strong premonition brought by the power of prophecy made Qin Ren have no hesitation. After using the power of cold to block the wave of Anubis's curse power, he immediately activated the magic shield, and then, relative to the pursuer, light, Qin Ren's body immediately became virtual, possessing the characteristics of light, and turned into a ray of light and flew away from the original place. The next moment, a terrifying flame of condemnation fell from the sky. The area with a diameter of nearly 50 kilometers was submerged in the blazing red flames. The terrifying flames instantly burned and melted the frost that Qin Ren had just released to freeze the entire land. Suddenly, a fire appeared on the entire land. It was like a catastrophe fire from hell, turning the surrounding area into scorched earth. Pushed by the fire, smoke and water vapor continued to boil, and the earth under the high heat creaked, melted and exploded. When Qin Ren sensed the crisis, he immediately dodged, but when Anubis noticed it, it was too late and was directly wrapped in the terrifying flames. At the same time, in another place, an old man in a black windbreaker chanted the word "Spirit, open, the gate of the underworld. I have fallen into the territory of the revered Ereshkigal, the queen of the underworld, the sister of the earth mother goddess. Now I will transcend death." See the resurrection of Nana, the dragon and snake king of the underworld. A blue-black soul light ball flew out of the old man's body. The next moment, the light ball suddenly changed into a huge monster, a giant dragon. The dragon was nearly 30 meters long, with its long wings stretched out. The dragon's scales were shiny black agate. The sharp dragon eyes were the color of emerald gems. Moreover, after the soul light ball flew out, the old man's body lost movement and fell into a state of suspended animation. The pitch-black dragon stretched out its claws and grasped his body. The old man who turned into a giant dragon flew up and moved at a very fast speed, and Anubis only saw a huge flying dragon flapping its pitch-black wings and landing from the sky. Escaped? The black dragon's ferocious mouth opened and closed slightly, and it made an old and wild sound. The huge body covered with dragon scales like black agate, with a total length of more than 30 meters, is a very scary monster from any angle. Escape directly? The intuition is so sharp, but forget it, Anubis is enough. The huge black dragon uttered an extremely confident voice. His sight stayed on the god burned by the fire of catastrophe, Anubis. However, it was obvious that the terrifying flames did not cause much damage to Anubis. He waved his ancient scepter vigorously, and the catastrophe fire that enveloped his body was dispelled. Then, Anubis looked at the huge black dragon, and a solemn look appeared on his black jackal head. "Who are you? An accomplice of the evil god?" The evil god just now was already difficult to deal with, but he was still confident. But now, if there is another one, it will be more difficult. "Me?" Hearing his question, a fierce light flashed across the huge black dragon's emerald evil eyes. "Vauban." The voice of Marquis Vauban came out of the black dragon's mouth. The ferocious soul of the Wolf King was transforming into a raging black dragon of the underworld. Let the soul separate from the body and then transform into a giant dragon. This is the effect of the power black dragon of the underworld. Marquis Vauban, a veteran god-killer who controls the Balkan Peninsula in Eastern Europe, once came to Egypt to kill Osiris, and before that killed one of the 4 sons of the subordinate god Canopus in Egypt. This was originally just the name of a vicious hound, but now it is his name. I really didn't expect that when I was rushing to Northern Europe through Austria, I accidentally found the trace of Anubis in Vienna and tracked him here. Not long ago, when he wanted to take action, the other party suddenly left. Although he was notorious, Marquis Vauban did not think that the dignity of the gods would make them show an embarrassed posture of fleeing when they met him. When he tracked him down, the result was the same as he thought. The other party did not escape at all, and did not even notice his existence. The other party returned to Egypt because of the disobedient god who was extremely similar to Anubis in posture, also had the power of Hades, and had the power of winter. Could it be Fenrir? Seasonal gods are not uncommon. Every country has myths about gods related to seasons. The most famous myth is Persephone, the queen of the underworld. But there is no myth related to the queen of the underworld, and the queen of the underworld has been killed by Lady Elsa. The power of winter of the queen of the underworld is also held by Lady Elsa. The giant wolf standing on a human body is not the queen of the underworld. The most likely one is Fenrir. This time he went to northern Europe to summon the disobedient god. In the Nordic legend, when Balder, who represents light and spring, dies, the world will fall into the winter of Fenrir, a cold winter that lasts for 3 years. Giant wolf, cold winter, Hades. No matter how you think about it, it will be connected with Fenrir. And, if I saw it right just now, the other party turned into light, Balder, the god of light. There is no doubt about it. But the other party ran too fast. Although it was a pity, there would be a chance later. Now, he only needed to kill Anubis and seize the power from him before other gods' layers arrived. However, his power, the fire of judgment, had no effect on Anubis. This was beyond his expectation. The power he took from Zerong, the god of fire and the god of summer in China, allowed him to release the terrifying fire of catastrophe. The flames of judgment that could burn even gods to death fell from the sky, and the fire of hell turned the surrounding area into scorched earth. The diameter of the burning area was about tens of kilometers, and at least it could cover the entire city. After that, he could stop the burning by his own will, and it could continue to burn for 7 days and 7 nights if left alone. In order to avoid being involved in the range of power, it was generally performed at a long distance. Although it had the disadvantage that it could not be used for other applications such as defense except falling from the sky, and it took tens of seconds from activation to landing because it required preparation time. But the power of this attack was extremely great, with the power to burn the enemy battlefield into a wilderness with one strike. In the battle with the god of disobedience and the god killer, when he is not sure that he can defeat the opponent, he will first use this power to make a consumption attack. If used well, it can cause a fatal blow. In the situation just now, if he is lucky enough, he can even kill 2 gods of disobedience with one move. But now, it's a pity. Vauban. Anubis was a little confused at first, but then he seemed to remember something. Osiris, the culprit who killed Osiris of disobedience and made Osiris return to the myth and fall into sleep. His eyes immediately turned into anger. Chapter 349, Marquis Vauban vs Anubis. Qin Ren had no idea that Marquis Vauban mistook him for Fenrir, otherwise he would have said speechlessly, "That's called Fimbul's winter, not Fenrir's winter." In less than half a second, he had flown nearly the circumference of the earth in terms of straight-line distance. Now, he was already high in the sky on the other side of the earth. In a narrow sense, he had left the Earth's atmosphere, and this place was already the universe. But when he quickly turned into light and fled the scene, Qin Ren left a reconnaissance guard. To be honest, he never expected Marquis Vauban to appear there, and it seemed that the other party was going for Anubis, and the main target of the judgment fire was Anubis. But knowing that Anubis had an old legend as the son of Ra, Qin Ren, who was probably resistant to the sun and fire, had no idea of trying to use fire to fight, and directly picked a nice attribute that even Egyptian gods did not have. But it's not that difficult to understand that Anubis would meet Marquis Vauban. After all, the old man, Marquis Vauban, to put it bluntly, is just one sentence. He has a fate with wolves. The first power was the greedy pack of wolves, and later in the second part, he got the giant wolf Fenrir. Qin Ren transformed into the werewolf-like frozen Hades and the jackal god Anubis. These 2 wolves appeared. It can be said that Marquis Vauban, who has a connection with wolves, ran out because of the 2 of them, and there seemed to be nothing wrong. Calming down, Qin Ren continued to watch the battle through the scout towards left behind. The scout towards need 4 attacks to be destroyed. Marquis Vauban's long-range attack smashed 1 grid, but the scout towards can still resist 2 more. What is the most tanky thing in League of Legends? True eyes. No matter how high your attack power is, it takes 4 hits to hit the real eyes. The fake eyes can resist 3. Of course, if you have a curtain blade, just ignore what I said. Through the scout towards left behind, Qin Ren observed the battle between the two from a distance, and was ready to go back and give the two a surprise attack at any time. Is the sneak attack too despicable? Stupid. What can I do if I can't beat them without sneak attacks? Are they going to fight head-on? He was not sure of winning against Anubis, let alone the God Slayer who was much stronger than him. The God Slayers all had the face of the protagonist, and it was a routine operation to explode. Drake almost knocked off his resurrection armor before. Moreover, Marquis Vauban also had the ability to resurrect. The Qin people did not intend to take action against Marquis Vauban before they had the power related to the underworld and the power to contain Marquis Vauban. If there was a chance to open the Yellow Sand World channel and send Marquis Vauban into the Yellow Sand World, it would be another matter. I was afraid that Marquis Vauban would directly kill the incarnation of Wu before the channel of the Yellow Sand World could be opened. Under the current circumstances, in terms of overall strength, Marquis Vauban was definitely stronger than him. If he wanted to fight against the God Slayer and the God of Disobedience, he could only use the fusion eye to fuse the corresponding power, transform into the corresponding god, obtain the power, and get the corresponding amplification and immunity. Only in this way could he fight against the God Slayer and the God of Disobedience who were stronger than him in terms of hard power. Otherwise, it would definitely be bad. Now let's see how Anubis and Marquis Vauban fight, and then wait for an opportunity to act. If there is a chance, kill Marquis Vauban first. Marquis Vauban was very cautious in dealing with Anubis. He possessed the power named Black Dragon of the Underworld by the guys in the Council of Sages, although he only revealed the ability to transform. In fact, it was not just a transformation. Strictly speaking, the ability of this power is that he lets his body fall into a deep sleep, and then the soul separated from the body changes into a giant dragon. Because the body in a state of suspended animation will become defenseless, it is difficult to use most of the time, so he will grab the body to protect it. Generally speaking, he will choose to leave the body in a safe place. However, when facing the god of death Anubis, he dare not do so. God of the underworld. However, the soul of Vauban transformed into a dragon is immortal. Even if the black dragon spirit is destroyed, the soul will return from the underworld like a ghost. This power was usurped from the goddess Inanna in Sumerian mythology, that is, the goddess of Venus Ishtar. However, this power is only the underworld image of Ishtar. These are not important. What is important is that this power is likely to fail when facing the god of disobedience who has the status of the god of the underworld. If Marquis Vauban leaves his body somewhere else, Anubis may even find it and attack his body directly. The ancient Egyptians made mummies because they believed that the soul would return to their body when resurrected. How could he not know that in Egyptian mythology, the god of death Anubis is the one who is in charge of the production of mummies? Leaving the body somewhere else would give Anubis a chance. The black dragon transformed by Marquis Vauban's soul is constantly circling in the sky. At the same time, he looked down at Anubis below with a cold gaze. As Marquis Vauban guessed, Anubis directly saw through the old man held on the right forelimb of the black dragon and realized that he was his real body. But is this an obvious weakness or a bait to lure people into the trap? Just try it and you will know. Anubis said to himself calmly and pointed his staff to the sky. The power of Hades gathered and flew out of the staff like a flash of lightning, transforming into countless ghost-like creatures in the air. The power of Hades produced countless dark spirit jackals. Facing such an attack, Marquis Vauban, who was in the form of a dragon, immediately activated his power. Boom, boom, boom! Exclamation mark! The lightning struck continuously and met the jackal spirit summoned by Anubis. The lightning met the ghost-like jackal spirit transformed by the power of Hades and exploded instantly. The lightning burst and was fierce, but the jackals directly swallowed the thunder. In Egyptian mythology, the one who controlled thunder was Set, the Lord of Power and the father of Anubis. In addition, In mythology and legend, Anubis stood on the side of Horus, and there was also a legend that he fought against thunder. Marquis Vauban's thunder was directly swallowed by the jackal spirit. However, the power of Marquis Vauban was not so easy to deal with. The jackal spirit that swallowed the thunder was torn apart by the exploding thunder in the next moment. The power of Marquis Vauban's curse exceeded that of Anubis now, and the power of thunder was therefore stronger than that of the jackal spirit. However, after more than a dozen jackals were blown up by thunder, Marquis Vauban suddenly discovered that the remaining jackal spirits seemed to have become stronger. Marquis Vauban immediately noticed this abnormality, and with his wings spread, the huge black dragon flew into the sky. Chapter 350, Counterattack. Compared to other prey, gods are indeed better hunting targets, the pitch-black dragon said in the same voice and tone as the Marquis. The next moment, with a click, a flash of light appeared in the void, and a terrifying light appeared in the eyes of the pitch-black dragon. In an instant, everything within his field of vision quickly solidified and hardened, turning gray and white. The reconnaissance guards placed by Anubis and the Qin people were also eroded by this evil power. Moreover, this terrifying power did not only cover this area, even the city of Cairo far to the north was instantly covered by this power. At this time in Cairo, a young woman widened her eyes. Within her field of vision, all the humans or other creatures that could be seen turned into crystallized gray and white statues in an instant, and this power also enveloped her body. However, at the moment of being attacked, a terrifying curse power broke out in her body, resisting this power and preventing her from crystallizing. However, except for her, all creatures and humans have turned into salt statues. Without exception, they have turned into white human-shaped statues, burying all the roads. Why is this happening? The woman's face showed a look of astonishment. People walking on the road with expressionless faces, service providers talking to customers, bad customers who are making things difficult for service providers, and other people who are watching the show with a smile, without exception, have all turned into gray-white statues. And this scene also reminded the young woman of something. She cast her eyes in the direction of the ruins of Thebes with a little shock. Could it be? The Marquis of Vauban, who was in the form of a giant dragon, raised his mouth slightly and smiled. The emerald evil eyes that could turn all living people into salt also flashed with joy when they glanced at Anubis, whose half-body was turned into salt. This power was named Eye of Sodom by the Council of Sages. Sodom, the name of a city that offended the gods because of the extreme decadence of its residents, the city of blasphemy. This city was destroyed because of divine punishment, and most of the residents died. This is a story in the Old Testament. The power obtained by Marquis Vauban can reproduce this scene, so it is named the Eye of Sodom. The power can turn all creatures into salt statues, even the god Slayer and the god of disobedience are no exception. However, as a range attack skill, ordinary people will be directly salted, but the god Slayer with huge spell power can resist part of it, so that the body will only be salted to a certain extent. If you have a healing power, you can even heal it. However, Anubis, naturally, has no healing-related power. There is no doubt about this, and the moment Marquis Vauban used this power, Anubis already felt something was wrong. However, Anubis, who was distracted to expand the Duat domain, did not resist and avoid this attack in time. When fighting with the Qin people before, his Duat domain was eroded by the Qin people's power and turned into frozen soil, resulting in a reduction in the bonus he received. But after the Qin people fled, they did not have the power to continue to erode the Duat domain. In order to restore his home court, he also dealt with Marquis Vauban while distracting himself to restore the Duat domain. This is why some jackal spirits were not torn apart by thunder after swallowing the thunder released by Marquis Vauban. They were strengthened as the Duat domain expanded and strengthened. The same is true for Anubis. He can also sense the power of Vauban. Unlike Sebek, who has a strong will to disobey and thus escapes from mythology, Anubis is extremely obedient to mythology. The main reason why he came to the world is that he felt the second violation of the scale of the goddess of truth, Mot. Whether the will to disobey is strong enough is the source of whether the power of the god of disobey will be attenuated or increased. Anubis, who appeared in the world, did not increase his strength but decreased. His strength is far lower than that in mythology. However, he also has a way to make his own strength stronger, or to be close to the power in his mythology. That is the Duat domain, by summoning the underworld, allowing himself to absorb more underworld spell power. However, this method, which can allow him to exert at most 70% to 80% of his original strength, did not succeed. First, the Qin people quickly noticed it and immediately chose to erode and fight for it, and then the Marquis of Vauban directly destroyed part of it with a fire of judgment. And now, when he tried to recover, he was hit by the power of the Marquis of Vauban. His lower body had been salted into crystals. But how could he sit there and wait for death? He raised his head without fear, waved the scepter in his hand, and while expanding the domain of Duat, he quickly drew the power of the underworld god and attacked the Marquis of Vauban. Evil blasphemer, you can't return to your body. A terrifying wave suddenly shot out from Anubis's scepter and hit the Marquis of Vauban. In an instant, the Marquis of Vauban felt that there was a gap between his soul that turned into a black dragon and the flesh held in his right claw. As the god of mummies and the god of judgment, it is his duty and power to decide whether the dead are qualified to return to the flesh and be resurrected. Anubis, who saw through the ability of Marquis Vauban, was attacked by the Eye of Sodom. His first counterattack was aimed at the vital point. If the power is allowed to develop, then his body will be completely separated from his soul and become two independent parts. Marquis Vauban, who possesses the power of two Hades, immediately understood his changes. He originally wanted to defend against Anubis's attack on the soul and body, but now it has harmed himself. You can't do it. Marquis Vauban, in the posture of a black dragon, spread his wings, and the breath on his body suddenly fluctuated. The rich Hades spell power surged from his body, constantly attacking these power spell powers from Anubis, trying to free his soul and body from Anubis' curse. You killed Osiris and took away his power, but it doesn't mean that you are a qualified Hades. Anubis clenched his left hand, and the surging Hades spell power directly destroyed the salted lower body, and then regenerated. To be precise, it was resurrection. The dark mud flew out from under the ground and condensed on his body, forming a body. You will die here, you will die. In the fierce battle between Marquis Vauban and Anubis, the reconnaissance guard with one grid left continued to provide vision for the Qin people. Keep fighting, keep fighting. The Qin people, who were ready to fissure, kept cheering for the two, trying to find an opportunity. But at this moment, the Qin people felt a breath again. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.